Hi everyone, welcome to All the Right Movies, a podcast on classic and hit films with something disturbing lurking beneath the surface.
And that's just mad.
Yes, it is. This week we're in the idealistic town of Lumberton, where there's something very weird going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's David Lynch's psycho-sexual nightmare masterpiece, Blue Velvet.
It is.
Oh
Certainly
dear.
is.
Oh dear.
A long time coming.
It is.
Before we dive into the strange world of Blue Velvet, here's just a little bit of information on how to make the most of ATRM. I'm sure you're aware, but only our most recent podcasts are available for everyone to listen. But that is just the white picketed fence exterior of All the Right Movies.
Very nice.
Underneath is a dark underbelly of podcasts just waiting to be explored and obsessed upon. We've created around 200 podcasts overall, which that's a lot.
That is a lot.
It's
Amazing.
a lot of effort.
It is.
It's worth it. It's worth
coming
it.
up to 6 years worth of effort.
6 years, where did it go?
And you can listen to them all by becoming a patron of All the Right Movies.
Certainly
And there are a
can.
few ways you can do this. You can sign up on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for our classic podcast archive. This is episode 110, so you can work out how many are in there.
Right. I don't want
Yeah.
to.
90.
90, yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say 109. I don't know. It's not my strong point, the old maths.
Additionally, you can join us on Patreon, where there are a majority of people go, where there are hundreds of hours of additional podcasts created specifically for Patreon, including our current exclusive monthly podcasts, Double Feature, and The Watch List.
Nice.
2 great shows that you're missing out on with all of us guys on.
Absolutely.
So go to patreon.com/all the right movies to listen right now or after the show.
Definitely. Don't miss out. Check it out.
If you could support us, that would mean a load to us, because it means that we can continue to bring you the ATRM brand of movie content that you have come to expect.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank
Sure.
you, everyone.
Thank you so much, guys.
Right, back to business.
Okay.
Blue Velvet.
Yeah. Why?
Why? Why? Okay, well,
Why?
here it is,
Why?
Westy.
All right.
My choice.
Yes.
And I feel like I need to explain myself. Because, you know, this is a very, very disturbing film. If you've just seen it for the first time because we're covering it on the show, then sorry.
Yeah.
I suppose.
You're welcome.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Either one.
I'd go with that one.
But we've had it on the poll a few times, and I don't think it's ever come close to winning. But with the sad passing of David Lynch last month,
Yeah.
I felt we had a unique opportunity to talk about the film in tribute to the great man himself.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's a disturbing film
It is.
with a lot of ambiguity about what Lynch is trying to say. And obviously that became his trademark.
Yes.
I mean, you may as well be talking in a different language.
Yeah.
Most of the things that kind of would often put me off a film, but this one really captivated me when I first watched it in my late teens. Much like Jeffrey, I was repulsed and intrigued by the darkness of the film, and it turned me into a David Lynch nut, leading to Wild at Heart, Mulholland Drive, and of course, Twin Peaks. But this is where the Lynchian nightmare started for me, and I never want to wake up from it, to be honest.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah.
There's so much to say about this film, with great performances and spellbinding scenes, truly memorable scenes that really imprint themselves, burn them onto your brain.
Yeah.
We're headed for a bumpy ride.
We are.
Matt,
Yes.
why do you want to talk about Blue Velvet?
I don't. Can we do Mary Poppins again, please? I was in a much safer
No, we
space back
can't.
then.
No.
That was a one and done, Matt.
Yeah.
Right, fair enough. No, for me, I've always had a list in my head of the directors we really needed to cover on classic. And Lynch was pretty much at the top of it. There was simply no one else like him. And as he said, this film, it's been up a few times before, so it is a shame that it's taken Lynch's passing for it to finally win. But at the same time, that means there's no better time to talk about it and to celebrate the man himself. And I'm like you, Luke, this was my gateway to David Lynch. And I think gateway is the exact right phrase to use for him and this, because there's no other director creates films where you truly feel you've stepped into a different world, where it looks similar and it looks familiar, but there's something where the normal rules don't apply all the same. Nothing is predictable, where very little might make sense. But if it doesn't make sense, that's also okay. And overall, this is a film, one of the things I find really interesting about it is you can come away from it, particularly like the first time, think, oh my God, the things I've seen in this. And actually you haven't. It's not that graphic a film. It's the suggestion of the darkness and the violence which filters through every scene, which we'll definitely talk about.
If we must.
Yes.
What about you, Westy? Blue Velvet?
Well, unlike you guys, this wasn't my introduction to the Lynch world. That was Lost Highway,
Oh,
Oh,
which was,
wow.
yeah, I know, right? Which made it kind of
Right.
kind of go, well, is there anything else that I want to check out, or do I have to? And I kind of just went, well, I have to. And then this came, I think Wild at Heart was after that, and then this came after that. So I got a VHS, like, the triple VHSs you get.
Oh, yeah.
I think there was this, there was Wild at Heart, and there was Lost Highway, and I watched Lost Highway first, and then I just didn't touch the rest of the box set for about 4 years, I think.
Naturally.
I'm not touching this at all.
Not going near that.
Nah. But then when I did, I was pleasantly surprised because I was really put off by the front cover, by the artwork. It looked just a little bit too sexy for me. A little bit too sleazy. Just a little bit. Just a bit sleazy. Blue velvet, gas mask on the back with Hopper. And I thought, well, I've just seen Speed and I was terrified of him in that. So I don't know if I want to get into this. And it's just one of them films. The more you watch it, the more you appreciate his artistry. I think it was a direct reaction to Dune and the way he was treated on that film. And we'll get into that. I think it's brilliantly put together in the ways of its abstraction, which we'll talk about as well, because he does say that he likes a concrete story, which is what this is, but it's littered with abstraction, with distraction, with taking you away from the narrative and making you think, well, what's that bit about over there? And he makes you look across the street when you should be watching the road. And I think that's David Lynch all over. And this is one of them films that really nails it home. It's a difficult watch at times. It's a beautiful watch at times.
Oh, yeah.
It's harrowing. It's everything there. It's a mix of everything. It's very David Lynch. It's a really good place to start. So let's go for it.
Let's do it if we must.
That was a pep talk, wasn't it? I felt
Wasn't
like
it?
Pacino
I
there.
feel great.
Yeah. It's about inches.
Coach Westy. I love it.
I'm all in black for morning for Lynch. You see, it's all working. It's all coming together.
Blue Velvet was written and directed by David Lynch and produced by Fred Caruso for De Laurentiis Entertainment Group and released on the 19th of September 1986. Filmed on location in Wilmington, North Carolina, it stars Kyle MacLachlan as detective / pervert Jeffrey Beaumont.
It's for me to know you to find out. Strange reaction to that question.
Yeah. Isabella Rossellini as Dorothy Valance, Dennis Hopper as the scariest man in movie history, TM, Frank Booth, and Laura Dern as Sandy Williams. ATRM are headed to Lumberton, the town where people really know how much wood a woodchuck chucks.
Do the podcast, you
The beginning.
The opening to Blue Velvet is unsettlingly idealistic. Roses and white picket fences, gardening, and firemen breaking the fourth wall. Matt, you're starting off our uncomfortable journey.
Yes, I am. I mean, this is such a beautiful opening, isn't it? I mean,
isn't it just?
This must be the best neighbourhood in the world to live in. Just look how friendly that fireman is. He knows you and he's welcoming you in. That's the bluest sky I've ever seen. They are the reddest roses I've ever seen. I've never seen a more beautiful white picket fence and perfectly manicured lawn in my entire life. Until you get up close and you see someone has collapsed and is dying on it. And then you really look underneath the lawn and you see that squirming massive insects that live underneath all the superficial beauty. Like everything you're going to experience and see in this film is summed up here. And it's also very David Lynch in that he can drop in funny moments where they shouldn't really exist, like the dog thinks it's playtime with a hose that Jeffrey's dad has dropped, thinks it's hilarious. What an opening.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't really know what was going on when I first watched it. I was thinking, what is such a violent reaction that Jeffrey's dad has to whatever it is, and looks like it's a stroke or a heart attack or something like that. Yeah. But it's just so weird next to this idyllic landscape background. Lynch said on the opening, it's a real American film, and it starts with that first image of blue skies and picket fences and the roses and the angle looking up. It's something that had to be looking up because it's a childhood sort of image that taps just right into his childhood, his view of this ideal America.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always got that opening scene. I always thought it was a heart attack because of the way that it's foreshadowed with the valve on the tap and the hose getting tangled, like an artery getting trapped, and like the blood can't travel through it and the water can't get through it. So it's kind of a visual representation of that, I think. So I've always thought of it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't disagree with you, Westy.
So because of the tragedy that's folded out here, we have Kyle MacLachlan's character. We have Jeffrey entering the scene. Loves to throw stones for some reason, just at bottles. Just get that. How's he going to find the ear? I don't know. Throwing stones, maybe? Yeah, okay, that'll do. That'll do. And I couldn't move away from hitting that bottle. Even if I saw the ear, I would still, I've got to smash that. I've started, so I'll finish. Do you know what I mean? I have that kind of persistence where that's not going anywhere. But I think it's great. The sound design's great here. The ear doesn't necessarily look real, but I don't think it's supposed to. The ants are crawling all over it. It's just very, I don't know, it's weird. There's a great sound design here. It's like crickets, and it's got that real kind of sense of foreboding all of a sudden, where you just think, well, don't pick it up. What are you doing? Don't put it in a bag.
Don't do that.
This is ridiculous.
Don't pick it up.
Just don't get anywhere.
Get the bag and put it over your hand and pick it up. Don't pick it up with your hand.
Use a stick. Push it with a stick. Something. I would have to go and tell somebody to come back with us to make sure I wasn't hallucinating, and then they'd help us pick it up. Because I would just lose my mind thinking I'd seen an ear in the middle of a field, which is fine. But I think that's good because it foreshadows how he finds out about it. Sandy's overheard something. I've heard something about it. Everything's, hearsay, and it's nothing you've actually seen with your eyes until he sees it. And we'll get into all that and how it unravels. But the thing that strikes me is how surrealist the police station is. It's like Police Squad. When he goes in, do you know when he's talking to him? And it's kind of like, that's a human ear, all right. You expect me to kind of just pause as he's pouring the coffee.
The credits roll.
It's just so idyllic, and it's so kind of over the top cartoonish with its colour palette and the way it's all blocked, and the way he's back in the other room just staring at a map, bizarrely, for no reason. And then again, once a little bit further on from this scene, I find it quite hilarious, but again, quite abstract, the way he's just getting so much information from this coroner. He's just standing there, tell us about it. Be like, kid, fuck off.
Why is Jeffrey even in that room?
What are you doing there? He's like, we'll go and see the coroner, and then you show us exactly where you found it. And he's like, well, I can find out this, and I can find out this. And he's like, oh, that's interesting. It's not like he's studying forensic science or something, is it? It's like, I've come back from school, I'm really interested in this. I wouldn't want to know. I'd just be like, can I just go? It's the way that this builds everything up. And you just think, well, what is this? How playful is this going to be? And it's just the tip of the iceberg before we start sliding down the other side, I think.
Yes, very much.
Well, talking about the ear, it obviously wasn't real, and it was created by makeup artist Jeff Goodwin, and was initially supposed to be modelled on his own ear. But Lynch said that it looked like a child's ear, so he used the ear of producer Fred Caruso instead.
Yes, Fred Caruso immortalised in a severed ear. It looks disgusting without mould on it.
It's horrible.
It's horrible. Yeah,
it's one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
A human ear. It's probably when he asked him that. I found it a human ear. No, a dog's ear, mate. Of course it's a human ear. How would you know it's a dog's ear?
Lynch said, I don't know why it had to be an ear, except it needed to be an opening of a part of the body, a hole into something else. The ear sits on the head and goes right into the mind, so it felt perfect.
Yeah, I mean, subconsciously it totally works for the story as well, whether he meant it or not, whether he's just being, cryptic even further after the film. I don't know, but that's David Lynch, isn't it?
I think that's his middle name, isn't it?
Yeah.
David Cryptic Lynch.
Cryptic Lynch, yeah.
We delve into this mystery ear and into this fever dream of Jeffrey Beaumont and his manifestation of evil, Frank Booth, and everything changes. Jeffrey goes to Detective Williams's house to follow up on the ear, but is told, ask no questions, tell no lies, maybe in time, later on, when everything's all said and done, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop his curiosity. And neither does his encounter with Sandy either. And just to talk about Sandy for a moment, expertly played by Laura Dern.
Yeah, beautifully played, yeah.
Oh, she's amazing. She appears in a very surreal manner out of the pitch black darkness.
Yeah.
She's an innocent vision of hope, and it really takes its time to come to the front of that screen. Lovely. She just pops up out of nowhere, and she knows about Jeffrey's ear revelation without any hint of an explanation as to why. And I think this scene feels very familiar. It feels like that archetypal scene where our hero returns back to his hometown and finds the girl that used to live next door who's blossomed into a beautiful woman. Yeah. But this isn't Mary from It's a Wonderful Life.
No. Definitely not.
No.
It's not far off, though, in
it's
kind of tone and vision. It's like, it's there, but there's something
not far off.
Dark a bit behind it all, yeah.
And I think Sandy almost acts as a guardian angel to Jeffrey, showing him the light at the end of his dark, disturbing tunnel that he wanders down. And I think that's the archetypal small town that Lynch is trying to evoke from It's a Wonderful Life. It looks the same, feels the same.
Yeah.
Well, feels the same. Probably
not. That's not true. It's got a similar tone. It's in the same key. It's a different song.
Yeah, it is. And this starts off the whole investigation. It's so tantalising and disturbing the way that doom-laden noir music kicks in as that apartment building looms over Jeffrey.
Yeah.
It's almost as if he's created this building in his mind, and all of the sordid things that happen inside it are part of his twisted brain. But then we're brought back down to earth with Sandy and Jeffrey's little meet cute that they've got going on with him doing the chicken walk.
Amazing.
Yeah. Have you tried to do that?
Yeah. kills your knees.
Absolutely not.
Not before.
I tried to do it this morning. I look like RoboCop.
Sandy says it's kind of interesting. And of course, what she means by that is never, ever do that again because it's an embarrassment, mate.
Arm around the shoulder as well when he's finished.
Horrible.
Really uncomfortable.
Yeah, straight in there.
Yeah. You knew the kid with the biggest tongue in the world. Thanks.
Yeah,
what happened? Don't know. Moved away, I guess.
Yeah. Right, great story.
Ooh,
yep.
Yeah, nice one.
Pillow talk.
Calm down. So talking about Sandy, Molly Ringwald was top of Lynch's pile to play Sandy. Reports conflicted, but it was either her or her mother who turned it down because she'd built up this wholesome big screen persona and didn't want to mess with it. Bearing in mind, 3 years earlier was Space Hunter, so I'm not surprised.
Well, that's true enough. That started her off, Space Hunter. Jesus, any opportunity, Westy.
Didn't want to spoil that legacy, did you?
Nah, exactly. So that'll be why.
But Lynch liked Laura Dern so much that she didn't even have to audition. But Lynch did have a meet-up with McLachlan just to see if their chemistry would be believable.
Which, of course, it is.
Very, yeah.
Oh, it is, very
They're
much.
perfect. Yeah. They go really well together.
Yeah.
So far, then, a little light-hearted mystery for Jeffrey and Sandy. Nothing to worry about, it seems.
Not yet.
That'll
Not
change.
at all. It's going to be fine.
With Jeffrey settling back into small-town life, he's captivated by the mystery ear and hatches a crazy plan to get into Dorothy Valens' apartment to have a snoop around.
It's a pretty good plan, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say that. So I'm going to pick up where Jeffrey masquerades as the bug man. An insane idea, but it just shows that Jeffrey has got this kind of unquenchable desire to get to the bottom of this mystery.
Yeah.
It's almost as if there's a seductive power of Dorothy Valens has drawn him into this apartment, and he has to do it by any means. The apartment block where Dorothy lives is called Deep River Apartments. Not too subtle warning sign that Jeffrey's getting well over his head.
Yeah. Yeah.
When he knocks on the door, the camera pushes in to heighten the claustrophobia of the situation, made worse as soon as that door opens and Dorothy is behind it, and she's immediately a woman on the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Half of her face is lit, one eye bulging with the anticipated horrors of the other side of the door. What's behind there? She's wearing a red dress, warning sign straight away. The living area is so unsettlingly red, and the kitchen seems like it offers some kind of solace with its light colours.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the unease, Dorothy has a really funny line when there's a knock at the door. She says, "It's like Grand Central Station."
Yeah.
Really funny. Like that. But then Lynch subverts our expectations here. We're expecting Sandy, and we get this weird fella instead, the yellow man.
Yeah, it's a great moment.
It is, yeah. What's he doing there? He's there for maybe 5 seconds. Why does he show up?
Just peering around the corner, grunts and then leaves.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Disgusting. I think it's just an exercise in sustained tension and intrigue, the start of a journey that Jeffrey shouldn't take, but he does. Doesn't he, Matt?
Yeah, because obviously at this point, Jeffrey has taken the key, and then we get the scene where he breaks into the apartment. And it seems on the surface, well, this is going to be a very straightforward, suspenseful Hitchcockian scene of trying to avoid detection, which it is to a degree.
Yeah.
But the way Lynch spins it, and it becomes this dark, sadomasochistic seduction scene, which turns this gawky young man who still feels like a teenager to me in this film, doesn't feel like an adult. And it turns him into this seedy voyeur, because as soon as he's in there on his own, I'm on edge. I mean, you mentioned the apartment, Luke. It's the layout to me, because it doesn't make sense. You've got the couch and the chairs and the TV, but the couch and the chairs aren't turned towards the TV like they normally would in anyone else's house. Nothing makes sense here. It's one of those aspects where it's so subliminal, but it gets under your skin and it stays there, because we've gone from that open and sunny daylight to something truly dark here. It is, again, quite funny how Lynch can just drop in a little laugh here, because it is quite funny that Jeffrey chooses now, of all times, to break the seal, because that Heineken he had earlier, that's come back to haunt him. It's the very definition of, could you not have gone before you left the house?
If you need the toilet, don't go do it in a stranger's house when you're snooping around.
Yeah, exactly. Still snoop around the bathroom when you're finished. You get out of there, what you do.
Exactly. But that leads to the most Hitchcockian moment of the scene, which is when Sandy blasts the horn 3 times to warn him Dorothy's come back, but he flushes the toilet just at the exact time, so it cuts out. That is brilliant. And it's a scene shows how remarkable the film is at shifting tones frequently within the same scene. This has started off quite exciting, like it's a detective thriller. But then Jeffrey is trapped, so the tension ramps right up, because he nearly gets caught until the phone rings, which distracts Dorothy. Yeah. But now he's spying on a half-naked woman, and we're in there with him. So maybe he should be caught. And then he is, and he's got a knife to his throat, and she's making him strip. like, where else can the film go at this point? Like, it surely can't get any darker or weirder than this.
That moment when Dorothy hears the noise and she kind of coolly plays it, but then goes and gets the knife and then creeps up like against the wall so Jeffrey can't see what she's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the scenes that really stuck out to me. Her performance in that moment is unbelievable. He says, I just want to leave. And she's like, no way. You're staying. I want to see you. Oh, God.
Oh, it's horrible. He always uses that vantage point as well, doesn't he, of the apartment? Like when you guys were talking about the layout of it, it's always that one camera angle throughout the whole film.
Yes.
That's the angle that Zemeckis should have used for here. Just in that
Right.
I would have watched that.
Yeah, I'd have gone to see if he was doing that. Yeah.
Too right. Right, well, I mean, you guys are talking about things getting weird. Should we talk about it getting really weird?
Oh, if we must.
Because here he comes.
We have to.
Yeah.
Here he comes, the big man. Big Frank Booth comes through the door.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
You'll never forget it.
Nope.
If you haven't seen the film, stop this now and go and watch it, just so you can just really appreciate what we're talking about here, because this is so gripping but so uncomfortable. It's so hard to watch. It's so, you just find myself laughing at it just because I'm so uncomfortable, because it's just pushed just that far. And I think the way he just sips the bourbon, then downs it, and then the way he talks to it is just disgusting. Don't look at me. Daddy, you want to call me Daddy, call some mommy, Daddy, open your legs wider, I want to see it. I mean, Hopper is just into this. He is 100% committed to this moment in this scene. But it's one of them performances that just stays. When that mask first goes on, you just think, what on earth is going on here? What is that? What's he doing? And then he turns really childlike and just starts kind of like breaking down. And everything's just all the Blue Velvet references. And it's all about that song. And it's all about his. And then it's just all of a sudden ramps up to this madness. And then he's gone. And it's just, what did I just watch? And then the second time you watch it, you realize when she's on the phone, you think she's talking to her son. But she's saying, Daddy and Mommy, and it's like Mommy's, and she's actually talking to Frank. Frank's on his way over. And that, again, is really sinister. So on the second time you watch it, it gets even deeper and it kind of just grinds a little bit more. But I mean, after that, I don't know. I find this really uncomfortable. I could not just watch that happen from a closet. I don't know if I could. I would have to do something about that. I just have to. And I just find that so kind of difficult to sit through. And then afterwards, I mean, it's not, from all of the subtleties there from Lynch and all of the unsubtleties and all the right in your face, you just think, well, that was really intelligently way to play it, because it's so original. I've never seen anything like it since, and I don't think I ever will.
No.
And then he just hits you, slam on the head with it, and just, you have the picture of the kid and the husband, and then turn over and you've got the marriage certificate in the back of the frame.
Yeah.
It's like, there you are. Right, okay, thanks very much. Yeah, I need everything kind of laid out really thick. That's no problem. But I mean, this scene, this is why I don't like watching this film with anyone else.
Of course.
I'm like that with other Lynch films like Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive, because if it's first time watching this with someone else, they'll turn around to you and they'll go, you like this?
Yeah.
You've seen
What's
this
wrong
before,
with you?
and you want to watch it again. Like, this, and then people start thinking you're weird. But the genius of Lynch and the genius of Hopper is that they're not tarred by this. They just go, oh, I know what you were trying to say. We understand that. It's abstraction. Of course it is. It's crazy. But if we had made a short film and this was a scene in it, and we just showed people, they would go, lock them up.
Yeah.
Lock them up. Lock them right up. There's a very fine line that would just turn into Cuckoo's Nest, but I think he pulls it off. Somehow this works. Somehow it's watchable. Somehow it's painful and really electric and really terrifying and really wonderful, actually, once you look at the acting that's in place here, the performance that's in place, it's wonderfully played out. It feels like you're watching something on stage. It feels like a real theatre production. Yeah,
it does. I think that wide angle helps as well.
It does, yeah. It's like a proper set dressed, and it feels like a stage.
It does, yeah. Disgusting stage.
Yeah, disgusting. Awful, but Christ, you'll never forget it.
Well, the first scene filmed was this rape scene, and Rossellini said that was because Lynch wanted to get it over and done with and out of the way. And understandably, she was very embarrassed when she was nude in front of Dennis Hopper, because this was the first time they'd met. She's having to spread her legs open here, and she was naked under the robe. And she actually apologised to Hopper for the discomfort, but he just said, I've seen it all before, which put her at ease.
Right.
I think he's seen most things before Dennis Hopper.
You can't shock Dennis Hopper, I don't think. Not by this point in his life.
Definitely not.
As we've been saying, really troubling this scene. Difficult to watch, harder to forget, which is why when filming, Isabella Rossellini was slightly confused at Lynch laughing as the scene was being filmed. The mad bastard.
He's getting away with it. That's why he's like, I'm actually filming it. This was in my head. It's now in real life. It's weird.
He said that he found the strangeness of the scene very humorous, and Rossellini later said that now she can't watch the scene without laughing.
Okay.
Right.
Just two people in the world then.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was going to say, I'm glad somebody can. And during this rape scene, Lynch cut out a moment where Frank hits Dorothy at the request of the MPAA. He cuts to Jeffrey in the closet instead, a move with Lynch claims made the scene even more disturbing, cutting it out.
Yeah, I mean, if that's possible, but it kind of goes back to what you were saying, Matt. The less you see, the more you make up in your head, and the worse it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, well, a horrific scene, and that brings us to our first question from an ATRM Patreon supporter, and that is another benefit. If you sign up to Patreon, you can get to ask us a question for the film that we're covering.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can.
This one comes from Dane DeJosie. How are you doing, Dane?
Hello, Dane.
Dane says, Frank Booth's drug-induced introduction in the apartment is a memory that has been burnt into my subconscious since my first viewing of Blue Velvet. What other shocking or unexpected moments in film have stuck with you for years/decades? Westy, are there any movie moments that have stuck in your head for years/decades?
Yes, many. And unfortunately, but I mean, they're all for the right reasons, and they're all from films that I really admire, thankfully. None that have been put in there just for the sake of being put in there. I think Murphy's death in RoboCop was one of the earliest ones for me that stands out.
Yep.
And recently Born Tomahawk, I think that really stands out for me, that sequence. Two endings that really, really hit home would be The Mist. I think that was just, that's never going to leave.
Good punch.
The ending, that was a real good punch. And the ending of Old Boy as well, the original, obviously. That came from absolutely nowhere. And one that floored us as well was the shoe scene in Jojo Rabbit, when he just looks to the side and the shoes on. Yeah, that's where that stayed with us for a long time. Yeah, that hits right. All brilliant, but ones that don't necessarily go back to often, let's be honest.
No, don't need to see, just like this one. Don't need to see this one.
Yeah.
This is a scene that I really did avoid when I was watching it. I must have watched this film about 4 times, but I've kind of like through one eye, I've watched this scene.
On your phone for a little bit.
There are moments in film that were notorious to me before I even got a chance to see them, and as such, I still get quite nervous in the lead up to those scenes when watching the films. They are the crucifix scene from The Exorcist.
All right.
Right. Yeah.
And the first view of Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre when he smashes Kurt's head in.
Yeah. Squealing like a pig.
I watched Pulp Fiction at the time it came out, so I would have been, I'd say, 14. And I don't think I should have been subjected to Marcellus Wallace's rape scene at that age.
No, that's correct. I remember that for a long time,
I'm sure we would have all been around about the same age. It's that saxophone blaring away that I think of first.
Yeah, it's the other guy's reaction as well when it cuts that split out there with Willis in the background. And that guy's just, it's just horrible.
Grunting.
Yeah.
It's a scene which I think must have been influenced by David Lynch.
It must have been that and Deliverance, probably.
Yeah, definitely. And I've mentioned in the past, it's the same as what you've just said, Westy. I got RoboCop on VHS when it came out. I think I was 7. And the scene where Murphy gets tortured and killed by Clarence, or almost killed, is sickening. It really is sickening. If you revisit it now, dear me.
No, it's pulled out. It's stretched quite a bit. It's that and Emil's death as well. I was kind of toying between the two, the acid.
Emil's death. Don't touch me, man.
Get away from me, man. And he gets hit by the car and just destroyed, which is more funny now, let's be honest. We're laughing about it, but at the time...
It is hilarious, a man exploding,
But at the time, no, I didn't sleep for weeks.
No. I think like the first time I watched it, I was 7, but it's still disturbing now.
RoboCop when we were like 6 and 7 years old, man. Yeah.
We should have been watching like Tom and Jerry or something.
But we were as well. There was nothing else to do. That's the thing. There was no internet.
The internet? What's
internet. There was none of this worldwide surfing web.
For all you crazy kids.
For all you cats out there. Yeah, don't know you're born.
And Matt, any scenes that stand out for you?
Yeah, I've gone for 3 here. The first one, Barbara's death, Night of the Living Dead. The fact that it's her reanimated brother who comes back, but just obviously doesn't recognize her because he's a zombie. And just the way she just gets pulled into the crowd of zombies outside. Yeah. Just the thought of what happens to her. is just horrific because
it's miles worse, isn't it?
It is miles worse because as well you think, well, she's the damsel in distress. She's going to get rescued at the end of the film. Nope. Brother kills her, throws her another pack of zombies to be eaten. And I couldn't believe it when I saw that for the first time.
Yeah.
Second one I'm going for is Funny Games, the Michael Haneke film, like the original one.
Okay.
Which if anyone hasn't seen it,
but yeah.
Well, it's definitely not nice.
Oh, nice.
Fair enough.
Funny,
yeah, great stuff.
There's games. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's about two youths who terrorize this family. And the scene that I will never, ever forget is one of the youths makes the mother do this really twisted version of like hide and seek, like hot and cold. She's got to find something, and she's getting closer and closer. And he just turns and he winks into the camera. He breaks the fourth wall, and he makes you complicit in it. And I was like, "What? They've broken the fourth wall," and it's horrifically done. And I won't spoil what she finds, but it's terrifying.
Not pleasant.
It's definitely not pleasant. And the last one I want to mention is Wake and Fright, the Australian film, because
nice, yeah,
brilliant.
This is a film that comes with a content warning because this comes with a kangaroo hunt scene, which was 100% genuine. I'll never watch that film again because that scene is beyond horrific.
Yeah, it is disgusting.
You know, I suppose. Thanks for the question, Dane.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dane.
It ain't no Crocodile Dundee, I'll tell you that one.
I was hoping it was going to be a welcome break away from this scene, to be honest.
I know. Let's move on. Let's see where we can go from here. Good grief.
This scene, I mean, surely one of the most disturbing character intros ever committed to the big screen.
Oh, absolutely,
horrific.
Yeah, 100%.
Horrific.
The director.
The first time that we talked about David Lynch on any of our podcasts, it's an absolute crime. But this is a hell of an introduction.
Yeah.
It is.
Possibly his greatest achievement. In his own words, it's a film about things that are hidden within a small city and within people.
Yes, it is.
Matt, your thoughts on his work as director?
I mean, I don't mind admitting, I think this is like the most difficult one we've had to do to kind of crack what does Lynch do here and how does he do it.
Totally.
Yeah.
But then I kind of had the realization that trying to explain the how and the why when it comes to Lynch is a pointless endeavor because everything he's made, apart from Straight Story and arguably Elephant Man, is a puzzle box, and there aren't any easy answers here. But I think the reason a lot of people come to Blue Velvet first is because this isn't the type of Lynch film where it's like that stream of consciousness straight from his head onto the screen, like Lost Highway. This is a Lynch film where he loosely sets up the rules of a world, but then turns everything on its head. Like the plot, in a sense, is quite straightforward. It's a kidnapping, and there's a criminal underworld. That's the bare bones. But no one has understood dream logic better than Lynch. The feeling of things can happen that don't feel logical, but at the same time, they do feel logical. And the thing about dream logic is all it takes is a little tweak, and it feels like a nightmare instead. Like, how many times have we all had a dream where it's something very innocuous on the surface, but something is just off about it, and it doesn't feel quite right. You'd like it to stop. And that's what David Lynch does here.
I want it to stop.
Yes, please.
I want all this to stop, please, because I don't like it.
Yeah.
When Jeffrey goes for that walk in the neighborhood, why is it scored like a horror film? And there's that tracking shot of him looking up at the tree branches.
Yeah.
Like, say, innocuous, but incredibly creepy and disturbing for some reason.
It's like the start of Get Out, isn't it?
It's very Get Out.
It's the start of Get Out.
Absolutely, yeah. When they take Jeffrey for the ride in the car, why does the woman stand on top of it and start dancing? Don't know, but that's the point. Sometimes life is inexplicable. When is this film actually set? Because so much of it harks back to the 50s. Equally, a lot of it is definitely the 80s. I think his use of transitions and fades and surreal glimpses of images like Frank snarling to link scenes together, Frank literally blinking in and out of existence at one point. It is like coming in and out of consciousness, and it's all subliminal, and it all builds, like I say, this feeling of dream logic. Nothing I'm seeing is making sense, and I can't explain it, but maybe I shouldn't even try to.
No, you shouldn't, because no matter how much we theorize and hypothesize about what this means and what this is about and the central narrative, we'll never know for sure, because Lynch just never explains.
No, could be something entirely different.
Completely different,
Yeah.
Westy, your thoughts on Lynch's director here?
I think it's just the fearlessness of all of this. I think his mind is just fearless. And I think he's at a stage in his career where he doesn't even need to prove himself to anyone else but himself. And I think that's what he's doing here. He's putting his ideas down as a screenplay and then working from that. I mean, how much of this abstraction that Matt's talking about, that we're all talking about, women dancing on the car, everyone inside This Is It for a start. How much of that is on the page, is scripted, or how much of that is, oh, I'll put that in. Oh, that's a good idea. Or I'll add that later. You can see it's a work in progress, but it's just Lynch's mind. The cogs turning. It's like he's got a sandbox and he's got enough sand in it to build sandcastles, which is the plot. But it's not the sandcastles you're expecting him to build. It's something completely different. And you're just thinking, how did you make that out of sand? Where did that come from? I'm just expecting this and I'm getting this. And it's just a really good way of throwing the audience off, but at the same time, he's really entertaining himself. And by doing that as a filmmaker, you really entertain the audience, because they're looking for meaning, they're looking for reason, they're looking for what does this mean? And he taps into that, and he, like Matt said, he's the king of the dreamscape. He's the king of the questioning reality. All of Lost Highway is just, is that a dream or is that reality? All of it. He's talking to himself on the phone. Even these bits in here, like robins, the flowers at the start, firemen waving, like... Yeah. I hope he's not on the way to a job, because he should be taking things a little bit more seriously. Then there's a house fire down the street and he's like, well, hello. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, just Frank as a character, as a character should be enough for any film, but this still has more layers than that. And even when Frank's there, you're still thinking about something else. This should be like Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, where it just completely rips the screen off. And it's just that one singular guy, but the squad who's with him are played really well. It's really well cast by, Brad Dourif's just perfect casting. And Lynch knows what he's doing. Everyone looks right. Everyone just has the place. And you can see that any single person who's been put in front of the camera in this film, or behind the camera for that matter, could walk up to David Lynch and say, what am I doing here? And he'll have the exact answer for what they should be doing, no matter what their role is.
It is pure David Lynch. Nobody like him.
No. It's
Nobody
the originality of vision. But everyone's got an original vision, but nobody's got the guts to run with it and put it down as they see it in their head without anyone asking questions, or not being afraid of anyone asking questions, not being afraid. Like we said about the Frank scene, some people, maybe, I don't know, might have something similar in the head and just go, that would be entertaining, but are they going to write it down? Are they going to tell anyone about it? Are they going to make it into a film? No. But David Lynch is, and David Lynch did, and that's why he stands out.
Yeah, I mean, he's woven an absolute maze here. It's easy to get lost in.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff full of context and subcontext. There are toxic masculinity, male gaze. The wood industry at the centre of the film is full of phallic imagery.
Strangely enough,
yeah. Lynch seems obsessed with this Norman Rockwell picketed fence 50s idealism of his youth. He must have seen some weird shit as a kid to then fill this dreamlike ideal of Americana with this horrendous Freudian nocturnal nightmare.
Yeah, Freudian nocturnal nightmare. They should put that on the VHS cover, on the DVD cover.
But being a fan of linear narratives as I am, and the genre itself, I do love the noir plot elements to Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
It's got all the classic beats, sleazy plot, catnip for me, obviously. A sinister villain, femme fatale, a morally ambiguous hero, with the majority of the plot existing at night. Perfect. It's Jeffrey's investigation that I really love. Following the car, taking pictures, building his case, up to his neck in vice. I love it. I think it could maybe have turned into pastiche, particularly with the music, but Lynch always keeps you on your toes, and just when you're being taken down this kind of very straightforward narrative investigation path, you're brought right back into this perverse nightmare with scenes of sexual violence just to keep you on edge, just to mess with you.
Yeah.
He never lets you settle in one particular genre, which always keeps me on edge. I mean, you can't categorize any part of this film.
No.
It's a Lynch film. That's what it is.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And if a certain interaction with George Lucas had gone a different way, David Lynch may never have made Blue Velvet. At the time, Lucas was in pre-production on Return of the Jedi, and he offered the directing job to a number of directors. David Lynch was one of them.
God.
He was never close, though.
Would have been amazing.
Obviously, can you imagine what those Ewoks were getting up to?
Oh, it'd be amazing.
The pit of Sarlacc. I dread to think what that would have been.
Sarlacc.
The Sarlacc.
Just a massive mask on it.
Yeah.
Be amazing. Get my lightsaber, you
Lynch met with Lucas, but said that he had next door to no interest in doing Jedi, and he instead made Dune. Now, Dune was a critical and commercial flop.
Yeah.
It's not the Denis Villeneuve adaptation that we've got over the last few years.
No.
It had Sting in. It was in great nick.
Yeah.
In that nappy, lovely. Yep.
No excuse.
Yes, in that nappy.
Yeah.
Yep.
His hair is literally fields of gold. Isn't it? It's disgusting.
And it was a critical and commercial flop, which led Lynch to revisit some old ideas that he had, more in line with his surreal visions from his debut feature, Eraserhead.
Yeah, so despite Dune being a huge flop for Lynch and Dino De Laurentiis, Laurentiis was still convinced by Lynch to back his next project, and also because the studio had mauled Dune. Lynch wanted total creative control on Blue Velvet. Laurentiis gave it to him, but he slashed the budget from $10 million to $6 million, demanded a maximum 2-hour runtime, and Lynch had to take a pay cut.
And Lynch said, after Dune, I was down so far that anything was up. So it was just a euphoria. And when you work with that kind of feeling, you can take chances, you can experiment, which is exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, that's exactly what you've been saying. Given that creative freedom, he's just let his mind run wild.
6 million as well. He's probably thinking, great, I can do that. That's not a problem.
Yeah, do you know Dune was about 20 million, the budget?
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Despite the town in Blue Velvet being called Lumberton, it was actually shot in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Right.
However, there is a town called Lumberton about 70 miles away. Lynch had to contact the mayor of Lumberton to get his blessing for using the town's name. But Wilmington was ideal for Lynch because it had that idealistic, picture-perfect small town that he was looking for.
Yeah. It looks great. It looks like a set.
It does.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it's great.
Looks like Hill Valley.
It does, yeah.
So the original cut of the film came in at 4 hours. I need to see that. And Lynch chopped it in half. I should have made like 2 films. I would have loved to have seen them.
Yeah.
The deleted scenes were considered lost, but there is a good chunk of them available on the Criterion release of Blue Velvet, and they're also on YouTube, so check them out.
Yeah. And it was stipulated. It was in his contract. 2 hours. Why has he made a 4-hour film?
Maximum 2 hours.
I've made twice the length. Is that okay, Dino? No,
definitely not.
He's made
Definitely
it
not.
twice as long.
Not good enough.
He's made it twice as long on a third of the budget of Dune.
Yeah, and included in those scenes is a lot more context about Frank and Don's relationship. Don worked as a mole for the police, but Frank kidnapped him and the son, and also grew obsessed with Dorothy as a result. And there's also the introduction of Jeffrey's childhood sweetheart, a character completely removed from the final cut.
Yeah, that seems complicated considering Sandy's his childhood sweetheart, or what seems like that's the role she's playing.
It's alluded to, isn't it?
And you've got Dorothy as well. Adding a third woman into his life is crazy. Lynch has a reputation of being a bit of an Abraham Lincoln assassination obsessive, and as such makes allusions to the great man in his films.
Right.
The man who shot Lincoln was called John Wilkes Booth, sharing Frank's surname.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jeffrey has to cross Lincoln Street to get to the shady side of town.
That's right, yeah.
And at the end, the way that is shot references the way Lincoln was shot, the way that the yellow man's being shot in the head.
Right, okay.
Oh, okay, right, yes, I get that, yeah.
And Lynch, obviously, he's a very enigmatic man. He said film or TV is like a magic act, and magicians don't tell how they did their thing. He dislikes the idea of behind-the-scenes footage or making of films. Probably good job that he's not around that we're doing it. Not that I think he would get in touch.
I think he'd be fine with it. We're being creative. He's happy with that.
He said people do it for sales or for money, but the film is the thing and should be protected.
Fair enough.
Quite right.
That's what we were talking about on the watch list a couple of episodes ago when we were talking about it's the too much. I was seeing too much of Chris Nolan's new film
already.
Everyone
before
being
it
cast.
comes out.
Oh, it's like, just leave it alone. Yeah.
Absolutely, Westy. The watch list, that's a Patreon podcast that we create exclusively. So sign up.
Yep.
Listen.
Lots more available.
Oh, yeah.
Despite not being a fan of making of documentaries and interviews, David Lynch did allow someone on set to document his work. That man was Peter Bratz, a German student who'd written an essay on the Elephant Man and sent it to the producer of that movie, Mel Brooks. Brooks forwarded it to Lynch and then responded to Bratz saying, I am interested.
So he ended up inviting Bratz to the set to document the making of the film. Lynch introduced him to the cast and crew by saying, this is Peter, he wrote a poem about the Elephant Man. And it took a while for that footage to surface, only being seen in 2016 when it was titled Blue Velvet Revisited, and is a collage of still images and Super 8 footage, and it's also part of the Criterion package.
Yeah, I've seen bits of it. It's a little kind of hard to get into. It's kind of dialogue from the film, dialogue from interviews with the cast, dialogue with interviews with David Lynch, but nothing to really grab a hold of.
Right.
Okay.
You think Bratz is trying to be surrealist on purpose because he's making something for David Lynch?
Yes,
right.
yeah.
As anybody would, yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Leave it to the artists, Bratz.
Yeah.
Well, it's good for him to try.
Stick to his poems.
Yeah.
Oh, leave him alone. Leave him alone.
I'm going to end on a quote from Isabella Rossellini about David Lynch. She said, "David is a big artist, and you don't get tired of Picasso or Michelangelo, so we don't get tired of David Lynch."
Nice.
Fair enough.
Love it. Big props.
Big props. He's an artist. Give him a fucking tuber, it'll get you something out of it.
The cast.
An unexpected cast in Blue Velvet includes a sophomore effort, a fashion model, and the revival of a seasoned professional and seasoned Hellraiser. We're starting with the fresh-faced Kyle MacLachlan as Jeffrey Beaumont.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, he's your man.
He is, and I'm trying to make sense of him because he's obviously Lynch's... yeah. I mean, he's obviously Lynch's go-to guy. It's clear these two have such a harmonious working relationship, and I think it's interesting. Outside of his work with Lynch, has MacLachlan ever done anything particularly notable? I think it would be fair to say probably not, really. I don't think anything's really stuck outside Lynch.
No, I don't think so.
But the reason he works so well with Lynch is the understanding they have with each other. He totally gets what Lynch wants, and he totally understands what he wants in his films, and he delivers that because on the surface, Jeffrey could and should be such a typical handsome teen role. This could have been an early Tom Cruise role, for example, at that time.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
MacLachlan gives you something so different instead. I mean, some of those line readings are so stilted and wooden, but it has to be deliberate. That must be what Lynch wants from him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey is such an oddball character to be at the heart of this. I mean, we mentioned it already, but bagging the ear up and taking it to the police. Just call them instead.
Yeah, give him a call.
Just walk away from it. The instant obsession he has with the case, his bravado and taking the lead and doing his own investigation, but taking Sandy along for the ride, like it's Scooby-Doo or something. Like, none of this is normal, but it works in the context of the film. I mean, that exchange he has with Sandy, I don't know if you're a detective or a pervert. That's for me knowing you to find out. Like, who says that to a girl they're trying to impress?
Yeah.
Like, the answer is, well, I'm neither, and I'm definitely not the latter. Yeah, I'd like to be the former, but I'm not the latter.
Yeah,
exactly.
Let's make that clear.
Yeah,
You
make
would
that
deny
very
being a
clear.
pervert. That's the primary thing you want to do.
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly.
Really? Yeah.
But he doesn't. But that, again, that's what Lynch wants from him. And that turn from a nerdy, geeky weirdo to someone who was pulled into some very dark sexual undercurrents with Dorothy, it is completely convincing, and it has to come from the performance. And the performance has to embrace all the darkness, all the weirdness, and as weird as some of those line readings are, MacLachlan absolutely does that.
Yes, he does. Yeah. I think he has to kind of play it a little weird and a little unremarkably to allow Isabella Rossellini and Dennis Hopper to grab the screen, which they do. Although MacLachlan had already worked with Lynch on June and became one of his go-to guys, he wasn't first in line for the role of Jeffrey Beaumont. That was none other than Val Kilmer.
Yeah, who later said he turned it down because the script he read was basically a hardcore porno. He said that if he received a script which ended up being the film, he would have taken the part.
Yes. Well, it's the same year as Top Gun as well, isn't it? So what a tonal shift.
Iceman.
Double whammy. Yeah.
What's this, just after Top Secret or before? I have no idea.
Think
It's around then. It's around then, isn't it?
Yeah, it's around then, yeah.
Yeah.
And as we're on the big man himself, Kyle, we've got a second question from a Patreon supporter. This is one that comes from MB King. Hello, MB. Great name.
Hello, man.
Hello, MB.
He says, David Lynch found his alter ego in Kyle MacLachlan. What are some of the best director-actor alter ego pairings in cinema history?
Right.
Matt, what do you think?
I think Michael Biehn in The Terminator and Aliens is how cool James Cameron would like to think he is. And how good James Cameron would like to
Michael
look.
Bay there. I thought, where's it fucking going with it?
I thought you said Sean Bean for a second.
Yeah, Sean Bean and Michael Bay, that famous duo.
That's what we need. That's what we need.
Yeah, I think Cameron would love to look as cool as Bean does in those two films, and I think that's why he's got him in there. I think Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters is absolutely Spielberg at the time. at the end of the film, when Roy Neary obviously leaves his family behind to go off with the aliens, that's 100% what Spielberg would have done. And I think it's probably the person in this film that's most like him. And the last one, for me, John Turturro in Barton Fink manages to look like both the Coens at the same time, which is quite a feat.
Great. Yeah, really good.
Fantastic, yeah. Unlikely pairings there. I like them. I was thinking about the pairing of Clint Eastwood and Don Siegel, which both some very good films in the late 60s, 70s, I think.
Yeah.
Eastwood is kind of that tough bravado that Don Siegel came from, like that era that he came from.
Yeah, Eastwood worshipped him as well, didn't he?
He loved
him a lot.
Loved him. I mean, obviously, Dirty Harry, come on, iconic, but Escape from Alcatraz as well.
Yeah.
But the pairing that I couldn't get away from, and I thought about immediately, is Werner Herzog and Klaus Kinski.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, very nice. Yeah.
They had that tumultuous love-hate relationship, which bore the fruit of 5 films and 1 documentary by Werner Herzog. Kinski was deranged, and as it turns out, a really despicable person.
Yeah,
but Herzog clearly saw something in his darkness that he liked. There's something blue velvet about their relationship.
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen Fitzcarraldo, do yourself a favour.
Yeah, too right.
What about you, Westy?
Just 5.
Just a 5, that's all. Just 5.
Sean B. I've done quite well. The Sean B.
Michael Bay.
Yeah. Ones that were really obvious to me was like Scorsese, De Niro. Yeah. That goes way back. Tarantino and Sam Jackson. I think he tries to get Sam Jackson in there as often as possible, even if it's just a voiceover. John Ford and John Wayne kind of stuck with me because I think they were just the same person, basically. And Wayne knew exactly how to take Ford and vice versa. Hitchcock and James Stewart.
Lovely.
Resonated with me, especially Vertigo. I think that really shines. But the one most recently that's totally flipped on its head a little bit, but it's unrecognizable unless you really look for it, I think, is Nolan and Cillian Murphy. I think their relationship is very similar. Nolan sees a lot of himself in Cillian Murphy. Where he put that role in there and just have him play that. So I think that for me is one that really sticks.
Very good. Yeah, obviously 5. I expected more, Westy, but
I've reined it in.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I reined it in on a Lynch film. What am I doing? I'm doing this all backwards.
It should have spiraled.
Yeah, it should have. Yeah.
But thank you for the question, MB. Let us know what your best director, actor, alter ego pairings are. If you do, that we haven't mentioned.
Yeah. Great question. Thank you.
So Kyle MacLachlan certainly was Lynch's muse. Hard to believe that this was only his second feature. And despite the chicken walk, he carries the film very well considering the larger-than-life performances around him. And he is the first larger-than-life performance that surrounds Kyle MacLachlan. It is Isabella Rossellini as Dorothy Valance.
Lovely.
Now, I think this is an incredibly brave performance from Rossellini for a number of reasons. Firstly, and simply, to literally and metaphorically strip yourself bare on the big screen takes a hell of a lot of guts.
Yeah.
Dorothy's not a heroic character. She suffers the indignity that Frank slams down on her. But because of that, this is an absolutely heroic performance from Rossellini.
So because of that, it was important to Rossellini that her portrayal of Dorothy is that of a woman who has been abused and that the nudity wasn't exploitative. She said, the butcher shop where you see these carcasses of cows cut in the middle and open, you have these images of cows and flesh, and that's what I wanted to portray. Wow. That's really Lynchy in that, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you can see that on screen. It's unflinching.
Yeah. And she doesn't have the security of it being like a true story or an Oscar turn or this has happened for a reason. It's like people might get this, they might not, but you've got to do it anyway.
Yeah, you have to do it. Yeah. And I mean, she wasn't an actress. She appeared in a few films, but she was primarily a model. And as such, she just signed a contract with a modeling agency. A contract which was soon rescinded once they saw her in Blue Velvet and they asked her to leave.
Right. Wow.
And they weren't the only ones aghast at Blue Velvet. The nuns who taught Rossellini at school contacted her and told her that they were praying for her every day.
Well, what are nuns doing watching Blue Velvet?
I know. I bet they didn't watch it.
Film night at the nunnery. Stick Blue Velvet on. See what that's like. Isabella's in it. Let's see what she's up to Nope.
That's a load of bollocks. It's read Wikipedia, didn't they? Just read the plot on Wikipedia.
Yeah, in 1986, they read Wikipedia.
Well, of course. It's on a tablet from God. The original Wikipedia.
And coming from a background in modelling, I think it's so brave of her to take this role, to put herself out there like this.
It is,
Can you see anyone else from that background putting themselves in this incredibly vulnerable position, putting everything they worked for on the line?
Yeah.
Cindy Crawford started in Fair Game, for goodness sake. And Isabella Rossellini did Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Probably see Sharon Stone maybe at this time.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly, but I don't know. I even think that might be you should need a little bit more reason.
I mean, this is incredibly brave.
Yeah.
I mean, Dorothy's a really complex character, really disturbing. She's desperate. She's living on the edge of reality. And I suppose she'd do anything to get her family back together. Anything, including degrading herself at the behest of Frank Booth. Mm-hmm. But really weird, really complex. In doing this, Frank's potentially tapped into kind of like a masochistic side of Dorothy.
Yeah.
A one that responds with pleasure at the horrendous sadist sexual deviances of Booth. I mean, it's a cruel, misogynist film with characters that don't have a place in mainstream cinema, but it's really compelling.
Yeah.
And that's because of the believability that Rossellini brings to the role. I mean, these kind of characters just do not get tackled or talked about in mainstream cinema.
Not at all.
And the scene that I love is the scene at the start where she finds Jeffrey in a closet. One that absolutely terrifies me. It's one of the most nightmarish things ever to happen, because if somebody's hiding in your closet, I mean, it's a classic horror trope, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
And she tackles it with an almost deranged aggression. The way she's screaming at him with that wide-eyed anger. What are you doing in my apartment, Jeffrey Beaumont?
Yeah.
It's incredible stuff.
There's excitement as well there, wasn't there?
There's a little bit, yeah.
So for the role of Dorothy, Lynch wanted Debbie Harry for the role. She turned it down because of a part in Cronenberg's Videodrome, a film with a similar unsettling underbelly as Blue Velvet. She didn't want to be typecast in these kind of weirdo parts.
Yes, yeah.
Don't work for Cronenberg and Lynch then.
Yeah, exactly. Don't work for David Cronenberg, whatever you do.
Just stay away from the Davids.
Helen Mirren was second choice, and she actually played an active role in pre-production, working with Lynch to flesh out the character of Dorothy.
Right. Should have been great.
She would have, yeah.
Yeah.
Very, the cook, the thief, the wife and the lover, that type of performance, I think, for Mirren. Very similar.
Very much.
But she did back out. And after considering others for the part, including Sigourney Weaver, Jodie Foster, Sissy Spacek, and Angelika Houston, he eventually cast Isabella Rossellini after they were introduced to each other by mutual friends at a restaurant. He spoke to her about the part, but at this point still had Helen Mirren in mind. And he also said to her that because of her looks, she could be the daughter of Ingrid Bergman, which, of course, she is.
Yeah. I think he was surprised. Right? You could be Ingrid Bergman's daughter. Well, I actually am.
That would explain it.
A remarkably brave performance from Rossellini. Stripped bare in more ways than one on screen. Incredible stuff. And finally, we have something quite incredible on our hands here. The ultra-psycho performance from Dennis Hopper as the criminally deranged sexual fiend, Frank Booth. And we have the very man to tackle that kind of character. Go for it, Westy.
Yeah, just before he arrives, I'll do it. So, I mean, is this Hopper's most memorable performance? Many would say Easy Rider. I would argue that it was Apocalypse Now, because I think that's just a really original performance, but one that is quite forgettable. So for memorable, yeah, it has to be. This one just sticks with you. It just sticks in your head. It's so powerful. And it feels like he's just, like I said before, he's just absolutely has something to prove here. I think this was the point where he'd done it all. He was surprised he was still alive. And the roles he was getting were just a little bit, people were very wary of him, like, don't give it a Hopper dose. And I think this is, this is like just totally embracing the beast and going, this is who people think I am. I'm going to show people who they're scared of. I'm going to show people what I can do. And he absolutely just lets it go. He's despicable in every sense of the word, but very enigmatic, very electric. He has this real energy. He has this real presence. He just owns the screen. He owns the room. When he's on a wide shot, it just feels like he's just pulling the camera wherever he moves. It doesn't feel like anyone can hold a torch to him when they're with him in a dialogue sequence. He's got control over every single person in that room. He tells somebody to do something and they do it. He's just got such an absolute ownership of this fearless, like, you know how Lynch is fearless in his ideas of this. Hopper is fearless in his execution of this.
Yeah, without doubt.
Absolutely amazing. I mean, that last scene, it has me in stitches. And I know we'll talk about it, but when he's like, I can still hear your radio, you and he's just like, he's so sad. And he's just like, yeah, you dead. He's like taking all the mask off. And it feels like he's just rehearsing for a scene and doesn't quite know where the camera is, and he doesn't care. Yeah. Like I said before, it feels very much like a stage performance. This feels very much like a theatre performance from Hopper. When he's screaming, "Don't look at me," You completely believe that you shouldn't be looking at him. And it's just so engaging. It pulls you in to something that you don't want to be pulled into, but it's the curiosity that Jeffrey has. It's the curiosity that we have. Like, what is this guy going to... We've seen what he was capable of doing, but what else is he going to do? I've got to keep watching, because it's like
Could
watching...
do anything.
It's like watching a car speed across a road and it's swerving left and right. You know it's a car crash, but you can't take your eyes off it, and that's Dennis Hopper in this film.
It's just a force of nature. I think he is at once one of the scariest movie characters ever. But if you watch it as many times as we have for this episode, he becomes humorous.
It is humorous.
Because he's so over the top.
It is, yeah. Some of it's just absolutely hilarious.
I don't think anybody else could have done it but Hopper.
Nah.
But there were a few people in the frame for the role of Frank Booth, including Willem Dafoe, who I think would have been good.
Could see that.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Harry Dean Stanton, Stephen Burkoff, and Robert Loggia.
Burkoff? What's this thing, before or after Beverly Hills Cop?
It was after.
Oh, it was after, yeah.
Michael Ironside claimed that Frank was written specifically with him in mind.
Right.
But all of those guys' name turned it down because it was too unsavoury.
Okay.
Which I'm amazed that Ironside said that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Must have seen him in Space Hunter.
Yeah, he's amazing in Space Hunter. Trying to get everyone from Space Hunter, poaching them, trying to poach Ironside. Strauss is the lead. Strauss is Jeffrey.
I was trying to think of his name.
Peter Strauss, just ask me.
Because nobody's heard of that
Because
guy.
no one's heard of it. Ironside would have been great. He's basically this character, but really watered down in Total Recall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see me, yeah.
Same kind of suit as well, and just a bit more shouty and a bit more cartoony, but it's not far off.
But the unsavoury nature of the character, that didn't put off a newly sober Hopper who begged Lynch for the part, saying, "You have to let me play Frank, because I am Frank."
Yeah.
Yes, he is. And in the original screenplay, Frank's tank that he carries around was filled with helium, but Hopper obviously knew a thing or two about drug use and suggested amyl nitrate instead.
Right.
Now, that's something used to treat angina normally, but when used recreationally, it has a psychoactive effect, which obviously Hopper knew about. So they did actually try the helium on set, but Hopper said he sounded like Donald Duck, and Lynch switched out the helium because he wanted to avoid any unintended hilarity in Frank's voice.
That would have been ridiculous. Daddy, what's the
Yeah, Frank the Tank.
Yeah, I would have loved that to have been written on in Sharpie, just like Frank's tank, written on the actual tank. Would have been great.
Yeah, I do find it very humorous that there are 56 instances of the F word in the film.
Yes.
And Frank says 55 of them.
And the only other one is because Frank says it, isn't it? Because it's Ben says, "We'll drink your
Yeah.
That's right.
Makes him say it. It's almost like an echo. So he does, he says all of them.
To your health. No, to your doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's wonderful though, isn't it?
You know, completely blasé. We'll drink your
That whole sequence is outrageous. We'll get to that.
On Hopper, Carl McLachlan said no one really knew what Dennis was going to be like when we met him. Rossellini said, "Dennis Hopper, yes, he'd been in rehab for 3 years. David Lynch described him as a ticking time bomb." You can feel that.
Yeah. Oh, God,
definitely.
Yeah.
Will he get through the shoot? Who knows?
I think he goes off, actually. He actually goes off.
Well, to wrap us up on the cast and on Frank Booth, we've got our final Patreon question from Heath Hobbs. How you doing, Heath?
Hello, Heath.
Hello, Heath.
Heath asks, if Frank Booth hosted a dinner party,
Right.
what gift would you bring?
I wouldn't go.
Yeah, I wouldn't go.
And what do you think would be on the menu?
Right.
So, I mean, it's such a very strange question. I loved it. As soon as I saw it, I thought, well, I'm choosing that one. It's great.
Yeah.
It is great, yeah.
I'd bring a case of Pabst Blue Ribbon, his beer of choice, but I'd house it in a Heineken box just to stir the pot a little bit.
All right.
To shake his Heineken!
Feel like dancing with the death, do you?
Where's my Pabst Blue Ribbon? Furious with you. Warm as well. Makes me puke.
I make sure that I'm as far away from him as possible on that dinner table.
Yeah.
I don't want him getting the amyl nitrate out.
Yeah.
I mean, when you hear that
Yeah.
on the menu, I think it's something as white picket fenced as the town of Lumberton itself. So I think meatloaf.
Nice.
And because he's a creation of David Lynch, it'd have to be cherry pie for dessert.
Lovely.
What about you, Westy?
Me, I've also gone for Pabst Blue Ribbon, so there'll be two crates of that.
2 cases?
But I'll bring some bourbon. and some extra amyl nitrate just in case he runs out, because that'll be funny if we play charades or something. I just want him on that. That'll be really hilarious. Have some more nitrate, man. We're going to do 3 words, first word. Right, okay, that'll be wonderful. And food-wise, I think Frank would go for something very American, but very, very much down the line. T-bone steak,
great,
French fries,
nice,
tomato ketchup.
Smashing.
Spot on.
Yeah, I love it. What about you, Matt? We've got a kind of similar thing going on, me and Westy. What about you?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Frank just needs to chill a little bit in general, really, doesn't he?
Good luck with that. So you're bringing him a lasagna or something?
What I'm bringing a load of Xanax, just a load of tranquilizers. I'm going to drop it in his drink when he's not watching. Just chill out, man, Frank. Maybe one of those, those squeezy stress balls you can get. I'd give him one of those. Just try that. Maybe a book of Sudoku puzzles or something to take his mind off everything for a while. Just rip it in half. Spinner. Box Sudoku. And then, as for what he would serve, yes, I think we all know what B was on the menu. I think if he's serving a starter, he looks like the kind of man who would just demolish a plate of chicken wings with his bare hands.
Yeah.
Just loads of barbecue sauce all over the place. So I think that's a starter. There's no
Imagine him on Hot Ones. That would be so funny.
Yeah, oh, exactly. Yeah. He's not serving soup here.
Smashing the table up.
Just eating the table. No.
Oh, it's not even hot, man.
Where's my milk?
Frank Booth on Hot Ones. Oh, God.
Make it happen.
If AI's made for anything, it's made for that.
Oh, it definitely is.
Main course, just sticking on the meat theme. It's definitely going to be steak. It's definitely going to be rare. And again, he's just eating out with his hands, tearing into it. And then dessert, I think a flaming baked Alaska. And he just sticks his face right in it when it's still alight. Smearing it like the lipstick all over his face.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for the question, Heath. More of those, please. Love that.
Yes, more like that. That was great.
Yeah.
That was good. That's cheered me up, finally. And it's about Frank Booth as well, but at least we can laugh about it now.
And if it's at all possible to make Frank Booth appear on Hot Ones,
somehow,
let's make it happen. Please do.
Even if it's someone who does a really good impression of it and you can just AI's face on the top, somebody must be able to do this. Please get it done.
And that thankfully brings us to a close on the madman that is Frank Booth.
Yes.
Who rounds up an incredibly eclectic cast, all bringing something unique to the blue velvet table.
The middle.
After Jeffrey's nightmarish walk on the wild side, he meets up with Sandy, where he's got a hell of a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It's a strange world, Matt.
It certainly is. Yeah, this scene where they have the conversation in the car and she talks about her dream. I mean, this is when Laura Dern really shines for me. She's particularly brilliant here, and it sums up one of the battles in the film, which is the battle between innocence and corruption, good and evil. And obviously Sandy is everything innocent, everything good in the world. The fact that they've pulled up outside a church to talk, so the music from the church provides the soundtrack for this. I mean, so much of this is on the nose, but it works so well at the same time. And does. I think this scene, despite the fact Jeffrey is about 22, 23 in the film, I say there's this weird thing where he feels much younger. It's like he is still a kid, and this scene really emphasizes that. I mean, it's such a naive thing for him to do, to go off investigating on his own. And now he's seen something of the adult world that he really wishes he hadn't. But that's the thing. Once you've seen the reality of the darkness that comes with growing up, you can't go back. You know, as he says, why are the people like Frank? Why is there so much trouble in the world? Again, that sounds like something a kid would ask, not a 22-year-old man.
It's really childlike, isn't it?
It's really childlike. And the horrible thing is there's no answer to those questions. But then again, this is David Lynch, and providing no answers is exactly what he does, and where this film derives a lot of its power from. So all Sandy can do is tell him about a dream. It's the only thing she can think that might comfort him in this situation, because it's what she's holding on to, because she is still this innocent in this world. She stayed outside the apartment. She hasn't seen what Jeffrey has. And this dream is such a dream of an innocent young girl, a vision of robins bringing love against the dark, which we'll talk about at the end of the film when it comes into play there. And it shouldn't work, this scene, this dialogue shouldn't work. It should be so cheesy. It should be so on the nose when the music soars up at the end. The description should be so OTT, but it works because Dern delivers it with such sincerity. You know, there was trouble until the robins come. And somehow, the whole film is a balancing act. Lynch just balancing tones and performances and dialogue and attitudes. And this scene works when
reality.
Dreams and reality, light and dark.
Yeah.
And this scene works when it really, really shouldn't.
Yeah, it's dream. Well, I mean, she's talking about a dream. It's a classic, like David Lynch dreamscape with that looming music over the top of it.
So going on from that scene, I mean, he's not known for his subtlety as David Lynch, let's be honest. Comes down like a sledgehammer with most things. But this is great when Jeffrey goes back to Dorothy's. The curiosity's got a hold of him again. It's, again, we've spoken about him being childlike and innocent, and now he's childlike and curious. And he's going to get himself into trouble, but he doesn't quite know any of the... There's no repercussions for him. He doesn't know what consequences mean yet, almost. And it's him kind of finding that out. And her reaction, you know, just so happy to see him. I looked in the closet for you. I'm like, what, are you mental? Are you crazy?
I doesn't live in there.
Just sitting staring at the closet all night until he turns up at the door. It's absolutely crazy. And then we get to go to Slow Club. And it's wonderful in there. This is, to me, this is where the whole film shifts and starts sliding downhill into the darkness, into the shadow, into the grime, into the grit of it. It's miles apart from when I spoke about the police station at the start being all police squad and cartoonish and brightly lit, and that it's all blocked and very solid. This feels very loose, and it feels like we're in some kind of nightmare, like a lucid dream, like we're slipping deeper into it, into the subconscious of David Lynch. And you got Frank there, he's drenched in the blue light. He's just sat, just kind of by himself. And then we'll go outside, and you've got Jeffrey just sitting in the red light at the car, and everything's just so obviously smacking you in the face. Just these two different worlds that actually work together, blue and red. It's all just this emergency kind of light. We'll get close-ups of sirens later on. So it's all there as part of like a big warning for him. Great shot when all the guys come out the Slow Club and it kind of just tracks them over the car park. I think that's fantastic. It really reminds me of Reservoir Dogs, just as a wide shot. It's just like the alternative angle of that. I think Tarantino watches, I'm just going to move the camera to the front and go slow motion. But it's a similar kind of vibe to that. And when they actually get to the building, I love the silhouettes that are painted on there from the towers and the smoke and machinery. And it's all just moving as if it's like a monster. Like it's just a mechanical monster, and there's something going on inside of it. It's like a hive of industry, of nasty, shadowy industry. It's awful, really creepy. And this is where we start getting a lot more shadows. There wasn't many shadows up until this point, and everything starts getting drenched, and the contrast goes up, and the blacks are really black, and you start having this mystery as he gets deeper into it. And I think the visuals here are really important, and I think that's what Lynch does as well. There's not as much dialogue in these sequences in the middle of the film. It doesn't need to be. And I think it works really well with the ominous shift of colour, tone. It shifts with his curiosity, but also this darkness of this machine that he's getting involved in. I think it's really well put forward. And to me, it's just a really exciting part of the film where you need to find out more, as Jeffrey needs to find out more.
And I'm picking up the action where Sandy and Jeffrey have their debrief at Arlene's diner. And what I like about this is the detective story element of the film. Like I mentioned, the noir elements.
Yeah.
It plunges you deeper into the mystery, where we don't know what the hell is going on, but we know that it isn't safe. Jeffrey says, you see that clock on the wall? 5 minutes from now, you're not going to believe what I've told you.
Brilliant line.
That's a brilliant line.
Yeah, it's a brilliant line.
It's so theatrical.
It is.
And I love the visuals as Jeffrey is telling this story. There are visuals of him outside Frank's building. They're a cross-cut with this scene. I don't know how he's made that shoebox camera contraption thing.
Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it?
I think the pulley system brings much more attention to him than if he just used a normal camera.
Just a normal camera, yeah. Just ridiculous. I've yet to try that out. I'll let you know how it goes.
But it is very cinematic.
Yeah.
And it just throws up so many questions. Who is this well-dressed man? Who is the yellow man? Where has Frank disappeared to? What's going on in that building, that hive of industry, like you said, that nastiness?
Yeah.
And the beauty of all of these questions is that really none of it matters. The investigation is kind of the MacGuffin. It is overtaken by all the other sort of details in the plot later.
Yeah, it's all abstractions like he always points to. It doesn't matter what Frank's doing. We know what kind of a person he is. So it doesn't matter with the
it's the type of person he is. He's not what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it's so engaging. I think everybody loves a good detective story, but this one is done in a very Lynchian way, mixing the traditional with the esoteric.
Yeah, it's like Lynch does Chinatown, isn't it?
Yes, it is. In this scene, Jeffrey says, I'm in the middle of a mystery. that couldn't be more literal, as we're just past the hour mark of a film that runs for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Which is clearly Lynch winking at the camera. Classic Lynch.
Classic.
Yeah.
Really subtle.
Yeah. So the mystery is beginning to unravel, but we still don't know what the hell is going on, really.
No.
Will we ever?
Can't wait to get a definite answer.
The only thing we know is the velvet is blue. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, blue velvet. That is it. Jeffrey can't keep himself away from danger and is straight back to Dorothy's apartment, where he takes a deeper plunge into darkness, and he starts a horrific series of events. As soon as this scene opens in Dorothy's apartment, I always let out this, I did it the last time I watched it, this groan of despair, like, oh no, because there's just bound to be some misery in there.
Yeah.
This is where Jeffrey and Dorothy have sex for the first time. They do the wild thing. Dorothy couldn't be any more clear that this is a place where bad things happen. She asks if he's a bad boy, do you want bad things? She's wearing a red dress, alarm bells going off everywhere. But this doesn't stop Jeffrey, who resists at first. He doesn't want to hit Dorothy, obviously.
Obviously.
But his urges are just a little too great to suppress. The candlelight blows out, heavy-handed from Lynch, in the visuals, and Jeffrey has crossed over into the dark recesses of his psyche. He's now pursuing all the sexual desires he's been trying to keep at bay. Yeah, a lot to unpick. Yeah. Does Dorothy crave the sexual violence because it's a link to her family? Has Frank tapped into her depraved sexual desires? Is this the only way that she's able to survive her life day to day? A lot of questions, no answers.
No.
And there's something animalistic at the end of this scene. Lynch moves to a slow-mo, and the sound design is that of kind of like a lion's roar almost, with an unearthly shriek.
Yeah.
And now there's no turning back. Dorothy confirms it when she says to you, you have your disease in me now, which is not a pleasant term to hear.
It's not great pillow talk, is it?
It isn't sexy.
No, it's not sexy. No, it's not.
No,
It's
it's not sexy.
No, it's not sexy.
In the aftermath, when Dorothy is protesting that she's not crazy, right, when they're in the living room, she then follows that up with, I still have you inside me. Jeffrey, get out of this situation.
Yeah, that's enough.
Because this is deranged. This is turned up to 11. We don't get out of there. We're nowhere on a knife edge from scene to scene in this film. And when he leaves and Frank turns up, terrifying.
Wonderful.
But there's something magnetic about Frank. Do you want to go for a ride? No, thanks. No, thanks. What does that mean? I don't want to go. Go that. Where? For a ride. A ride. Hell, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. What does that mean?
Yeah. They go for a joyride with very little joy in it.
There's no joy.
No
joy at all. During the scenes where Kyle and Isabella are naked, they questioned Lynch, do I have to go that far? And his reply was, yes. Of course you do.
Of course. Further if possible.
Yeah, what are you on about? Solely? No. Can't you just hint it? No.
Westy mentioned Police Squad earlier, and the next scene starts with a joke that could almost come from that when Frank goes, this is it. And then it cuts to the place which is called This Is It.
It's great.
Like, it is. That could be from The Naked Gun.
Naked Gun, yeah.
It's great, but then that's the only bit of light relief you get from this scene, because one of the overall feelings I have with Blue Velvet and why it's so disturbing when it's not actually that graphic is it nails that feeling of someone being in a situation or a place they shouldn't be, but they can't escape from it.
It's that helplessness, isn't it?
It's the helplessness
you
of this.
You don't want to be there.
Yeah. Don't want to be there. You don't want to be in Dorothy's apartment, but this entire section with Ben. And I mean, it's so weird because actually very little happens in it, but all the same, my skin crawls throughout the whole thing because it's the implicit threat under the surface of what darkness is going to happen in this scene. And you look at Ben, and I've already said, the film, I can't decide when it's set. I mean, what era has Ben fallen out of without loungewear and cigarette holder? Like, he certainly doesn't belong in the 80s. He certainly doesn't seem like he comes from the 50s even.
No.
And it's just question after question, like, who is he exactly?
Yeah.
What's the deal with all the overweight ladies hanging around with him? Who's the guy eating the big bowl of, I think it's pasta? Like, these are the people keeping hold of Dorothy's son. Why?
I know.
And it's a scene that just exemplifies for me the dream logic I've been talking about, because nothing makes sense about this.
No.
But at the same time, it's got its root in some kind of reality. The fact that the set design is so symmetrical, but it's slightly off at the same time because of the lighting that comes from the lamps. And the implicit threat that runs throughout this, the toast that they make, the way that everything Ben says to Frank is done with such lightness, as if he knows how explosive Frank can be, but he also knows how to keep him under control by amusing him, talk to him like he's a child. We'll have a beer with Frank, get the glasses.
It's great.
And because Dorothy and Jeffrey are so out of place here and they're outnumbered, the whole scene just has this queasy feeling, and it just sits in my stomach throughout. And it's just summed up in that incredible moment where Ben uses that lamplight to mind to in dreams.
Yeah.
Why is this scene so disturbing?
Why is it even in there?
Why is it in there? Why?
It's amazing, that's why.
Well, I know, but yeah, exactly. We don't have the answers, and we probably shouldn't. Why does the song have that impact on Frank? Do they do this on a regular basis whenever he comes around?
No.
Is this like the party trick?
His personality changes to different songs, though, doesn't it? He's had the Blue Velvet for Dorothy. Now he's got this one, which is aimed at Jeffrey, I think. But this is what we've seen under the grass at the start of the film.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This, the surface are being pulled back now. I mean,
yeah.
Brad Dourif just dancing with a snake in the background. Where do you get that from?
I know.
It's
so
crazy.
It's just so weird. It's classic nightmare logic.
It is. It's absolute nightmare logic. I mean, this scene, it upsets me and it disturbs me on a level where I've never been able to quite work out why. And I think it's because despite the fact there's no violence in the scene whatsoever, apart from the punch to the gut that Jeffrey takes, which is, it's not that graphic.
And there's that punch to the face as well, which doesn't really seem real because nothing happens to his face. Yeah. So I don't know if he's just reacting to it or whether Frank actually hits him. It's so, it is dreamlike.
Yeah.
Well, nightmare-like.
That's it. This is the scene in the film that most feels like a nightmare to me. Like, it's brilliant, but I just want to wake up and I just want it to end.
One of the most peculiar scenes I've ever seen. I was just captivated when I first saw it, but I didn't understand why. I still still don't. But there's something like grimily seductive about the whole thing. I don't know why I'm attracted to this scene.
I don't know either, but yeah, it's true.
Weird. Lynch didn't go directly to Roy Orbison for permission to use In Dreams. Instead, he obtained license for the song by other means. He just went to the record company. So you can imagine Orbison's surprise when he sat down in a Malibu movie theater to watch this new David Lynch Blue Velvet film. Yeah, let's watch it. And on comes one of the most revered songs in his back catalogue. He said, I was mortified because they were talking about the candy-coloured clown in relation to a dope deal. I thought, what in the world?
What a gentleman he is.
Yeah, the big O.
Orbison later said that he watched the film again and appreciated what the song gave to the film and vice versa. The use of the song in the film is attributed to a resurgence in Orbison's popularity, leading to a successful greatest hits package and him joining supergroup The Travelling Wilburys.
Strangely, this made his popularity soar, which is unbelievable considering it's Roy Orbison.
It's just a new demographic for Roy Orbison, this though, isn't it?
Yeah.
The David Lynch mob.
This scene is what Lynch called the eye of the duck scene, i.e. the most important part of the film. Lynch said, the key to the whole duck is the eye, and where it is placed, it's like a little jewel. If it's there, it's absolutely beautiful. If you say so, David, like,
I don't know what you mean.
That's fine.
I'd say the beak's touch more important, but
yeah,
that's just me looking at duck logic. I don't know. I haven't thought about it for long.
Yeah, the fact that the club is called This Is It, I guess, is the cherry on that kind of obvious cake. This is the eye of the duck.
Yeah,
the light that Stockwell uses as a mic was not planned. During rehearsals, he picked up this construction work light and used it as a stand-in mic.
Right.
Lynch loved it so much that he kept the light, and Stockwell mimed the song when he originally was meant to sing it.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Works much better that way.
It really does. It's much more sinister that way.
It is so sinister. And I don't know why. Again, I don't know why.
On the way out of This Is It, it's one of my favourite transitions in cinema history, I think. Oh, anything that moves! And then, bang, he just disappears from the frame.
Yeah.
It's incredibly creepy and really powerful and just put straight into the car. And you're like, what is going on? Like, the furious nature of that disappearance, of that cut, is so Lynchian. And then we're going to the car and then we'll see, the road, and I'm thinking, this is Lost Highway. This must be where he gets the idea of Lost Highway from. This iconography of just this traveling to nothing, to darkness, and it's just that's where Jeffrey is. He's in this hell, in this chariot to hell with these horrible people, and nobody respects his privacy. No one respects his place. No one respects his opinion. No one wants him to be there. He doesn't really want to be there, and he's just being exploited as a human being. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And then when, the pullover into nothing, And then Frank you hear the gas, and then, oh, God, there's just that incredible shot of as you've got Dorothy in the front, you've got Frank in the front, you've got the other guy behind her.
Great shot.
And it just turns around. You've just, that framing of that is just so imposing on the viewer because you feel like you're in the back seat with him. And it's like, oh. And then there's the leave her alone, and he starts on her, and it's just, that's really weird. But watch the guy behind Isabella Rossellini, he just doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Even he's like, am I in the scene? Am I in the shot? Like, what am I doing? He looks terrified. There's no ad-libbing whatsoever here because Hopper is just gone. Yeah. He's just doing his thing, and that's fine. And then Jeffrey just, well, it's not fine, but Jeffrey just completely interrupts him.
But fine.
It's not fine. But
just a little
Jeffrey,
red.
He snaps at this point. This is what he didn't do the first time he saw Frank act against Dorothy, because he has more feelings for her now. He has more understanding of who this is, and he's going to stand up to this evil, and he just gets punished for it. I love that fist just coming into the shot where he punches him. I think that's just wonderfully done. Yeah. And it just holds that shot as getting to put Frank the way he snaps here. Get him out the car! And it's just like, furious about what's happened to him. He's like, he's been touched, he's been violated. And then he chooses to violate Jeffrey and just, you're going to invade my space, I'm going to invade yours. And he's just all pretty, and he's just with the lipstick on and then kissing him. And it's just a complete invasion of that privacy, and that emotion is disgusting. And again, he's just using him and abusing him as a person, as a human being, and just stripping him of any personality and just saying, you're mine to do what I want with. That's what I'm going to do. And you are the candy-coloured clown. You are this person. She is Blue Velvet. You're the candy-coloured clown now. I can now tap into that. And then everybody understands that that is what Frank's passionate about. And that's what's driving him forward, is this song. So you've got people in his crew, especially that woman who gets on top of the car and starts to dance, because she's just reassuring Frank that everyone's in on this. It's a good idea to feel this way. We are into the song. We are into the emotion. Dorothy isn't. She's sat in the car just going, leave him alone. What on earth is going on? With Brad Dourif, again, amazing casting. When he's just stood with that knife against his throat, he is just completely committed to that part, to that role. You would think he is in that group, and he's the only one who gets called by name, as far as I can remember. It's he's got a personality that Frank taps into. He's like number one guy, and he's like the one who can count. You are my number one, a guy. And it's got that kind of vibe to it, and they work really well together, I think, because Dourif is just inherently creepy and naturally creepy anyway. And his speech about a love letter is a bullet from a gun, and it goes into your heart, and you get a love letter from me, and you are done for, and that is it. And he's using love as a weapon. He's using emotion as a weapon. He's using happiness as a weapon. And this person just couldn't get any more despicable. And he does, and you're along for the ride 100%. And then he just starts going for him and starts beating up Jeffrey and starts breaking him down. It's the worst possible behavior towards another human being, how you can belittle them. And that's what he does all the way through this film to everybody, and especially to Jeffrey here. It's really tough to watch, but it completely reinforces Frank's character and makes you fucking terrified of him.
It's one of the most terrifying scenes in any film, this.
It really
just
is.
This stretch, Dorothy and Jeffrey's psycho sex, this is it. And then this scene...
Yeah.
The lipstick, the woman dancing on the hood of the car, it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, Lynch is like, dance on top of the car to Roy Orbison. Just like, yeah, no problem.
No words.
And that's why everybody's in there. Just no words from anybody. Everyone understands the situation. How many times has he done this?
Do find it interesting that Frank calls the song Candy Coloured Clown. Candy Coloured Clown. It's almost childlike. Like when my nephews were younger, they'd call Home Alone Kevin.
Right.
It's like that kind of thing.
Okay,
He's like attaching himself to the first part of the song.
Yeah, same with Blue Velvet.
Doesn't care about it.
Yeah, it's like there's Blue Velvet. There you go, Candy Coloured Clown. That's what that's called. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, very childlike. Very childlike. I mean, just the weirdest fucking scene I've ever seen.
I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
It is. So some of the most disturbing scenes of the decade, of any decade, in a stretch, which is strangely compelling.
Yeah, very compelling. Yeah.
I'm ashamed to say I am attracted to this for some reason.
I love it.
You are
Absolutely.
Jeffrey.
Absolutely love it.
You love it deep down.
The Crew.
The Crew on Blue Velvet brings some names to the podcast that we've never talked about in the past.
Yeah.
And we're starting off with the singular vision that David Lynch brought Blue Velvet with his unique screenplay.
Yeah.
As it's written and directed by David Lynch, I think the lines are blurred between directing and writing, and sometimes it just feels like a sensation or an atmosphere that he's created with Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
But the aspect of the writing that sticks out to me most is duality. It's a huge part of the narrative and of the characters as well. And I think that Lynch presents a kind of hyper-reality at the start and the end of the films, complete with clunky dialogue and double entendre-laced radio jingles.
Mm-hmm.
And then he flips that right on its head for the middle section. I think the genre-bending nature of the film also fits into this duality. Is it a mystery? Is it a tongue-in-cheek drama? A coming-of-age film? A horror film? None of those. All of those.
Yeah.
I like that Jeffrey has almost a dual personality, the kind of shucks small-town boy during the day, and the disturbed sexual curious voyeur that prowls the night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something that is reinforced by the two women in his life, Sandy during the day, Dorothy at night. He's at once repulsed by what he sees from Dorothy's closet, but also finds it strangely alluring and erotically charged.
Yeah.
Kind of just like we do.
Of course.
Yes. We are Jeffrey.
He pretends to be somebody he's not when he masquerades as the bug man. This is the bridge between his two personalities, between the day and the nighttime, darkness and light. Bugs in the film are representative of the darkness inherent in society, in the fabric of everyone, even people as white picket fenced as Jeffrey and Sandy, and it goes into the dream that Sandy had that you mentioned earlier, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see this duality in the character of Dorothy, who's forced into these horrific sexual situations with Frank, but seems to get some sensual satisfaction from it. And she sees Jeffrey as someone who can help her get her son back, but also begs for him to display the same sordid behaviour as Frank. Mm-hmm. It's so complex and compelling, the way that these characters are written. And I do think it's interesting that Frank's domain is the nighttime. This is where he thrives. And generally, the only time we see him during the day is when he's dressed as the well-dressed man disguise.
Yeah, he's in disguise, yeah.
He also can't make his mind up whether he wants to be baby or daddy.
No.
The town of Lumberton, we discussed this, it's got this kind of howdy-doody friendly exterior that it wants to portray, but there's something very evil lurking just below the surface. I think Lynch makes the duality in the film a metaphor for the complexities of human emotions and impulses, and also towns and cities dotted all over the world. And, I'm just scratching the surface here. Mm-hmm. It's outstandingly oblique writing from Lynch. It's something else, something that nobody would ever do.
No.
Westy, what are your thoughts on the writing?
It just has, like you've said, just this incredible sense of originality. And I think the dialogue as well reflects that, because it's just so clunky and it's just so matter-of-fact at the start. And then you get these beautiful monologues, from Sandy talking about a dream, how that evokes so many visions in your head. And then Frank's monologue that we've just spoke about love letters and how that's really important. But it's just the plotting of this as well. I think he plots it really well, and it's really, really steadily done, because there's always something happens that you don't quite expect. And I think he's got the plot down, and that is licked, and he knows exactly what he's doing with that. Like you said, he loves a concrete plot, which is what this is. It's very simple. It's a very small plot, but around that, it's what he builds on top of it. The foundations are there. And what Lynch doesn't do is explain himself, and never has, and never will.
No.
And I think a lot of that's in the writing, and I think that's why, Val Kilmer was put off by it. God knows what that draft was like. A lot of this is down to Lynch nailing down a solid idea to get funding, to then have fun with it on top of that, to deal with the actresses who are involved in it, every character that's in it, and then just say, why don't we try this? Yeah. Why don't we try that? I mean, to have Frank's character originally have helium, and to change that when Hopper suggested to change it, shows me an incredible shift in that character. That would have just been hilarious.
Yeah.
It would have made no sense. High pitch, sound like Donald. They tried to do it.
Yeah.
So how much of this was fleshed out on the page and how much of it was fleshed out as they were shooting? And I think it's down to David Lynch to say that this is written and directed by David Lynch as a package. It's kind of half written, half directed, smashed together. The writing is the direction, and the direction is the writing, because it's David Lynch.
Matt, the writing for you?
Very similar. I think this is one of those cases where I can't really divide the direction and the writing for the most part. I think the writing is part of the reason why the film fills you with so much anxiety, because it constantly sets up expectations of where a film would normally go, except it doesn't. And when it doesn't bother explaining why it hasn't done that either. Yeah. So, why is Sandy Sad so blasé about letting Jeffrey tag along on this police case, a murder case? Don't know, but it doesn't matter. No. Why is Jeffrey not more freaked out by the discovery of a severed ear? Don't know, doesn't matter. No. It's a film of total contrast in the writing. That line about Jeffrey, is he a detective or pervert? He's both. Like, it flips, contrasts all the time. It goes from lush romantic scenes of teenage love to dark sexual depravity, and it's just different sides of the same coin. Like, I always forget part of the ending of this film ends with a shootout between the police and Frank's gang.
Yeah.
But Lynch could not care less about that, because that's
couldn't.
how and this is what I was saying, what would someone else do with this script? Anyone else would end it with a big shootout.
And Frank getting away and then building that tension. Like, Frank's escaped the shootout. And it's
exactly.
Just, you can see where the budget's been stripped here.
Yeah.
Because it's beautifully framed, 2 windows. Yeah. Nobody's getting shot. No one's just people lying on the ground.
Yeah.
So it's beautifully done.
It is.
And it's so deliberately throwaway by Lynch. He's going, well, there you go. There's the one bit you were expecting, and I've just made it really uneventful, and it's the most boring part of the film.
Yeah, there's the action-packed ending. Imagine
if I have to do this, I'll do it.
Imagine if he directed Commando.
So you obviously can't separate the writing and directing. They're pretty much one and the same. And I think Blue Velvet it filters the way he views the world through this 50s style Americana, but it's still in the 80s at the same time. In every aspect of the film, you just go, well, yeah, that's David Lynch, and it's what he does. Yeah. And the writing is no different. It's all about light and dark coexisting, and it may not make sense. You just have to accept that.
Lynch's Blue Velvet screenplay had been passed around Hollywood and rejected by pretty much every major studio due to its disturbing nature.
What a shocker.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Surprised it even got made in the first place.
And after he finished The Elephant Man, Lynch met up with producer Richard Roth, and he gave Roth an unfilmed script of his, which was called Ronnie Rocket. Roth read it, asked if he had anything else bubbling away, and then said, well, I told him I'd always wanted to sneak into a girl's room to watch it into the night, and that maybe at one point or another I would see something that would be the clue to a murder mystery.
Brilliant. Yeah, I've always wanted to sneak into a girl's room. Right, stop there.
Yeah, but do you have a script though? Like, so I'm going to call the police if this goes any further.
Yeah, write that down.
But oddly enough, Roth loved it and encouraged him to write a treatment. And David Lynch went home, and that's when he had the idea for the ear that came into his mind.
Lynch said that he had 3 ideas which formed the basis of Blue Velvet. The Bobby Vinton song, he said the mood that came with that song, a mood, a time, and things that were of that time. He thought about being in a girl's closet at night, like Matt just said. And the third idea was the ear and the feel, because it would be like finding a ticket to another world. You know, it would change your life. I don't know if it would, David.
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't really.
It would change your life, David. But
Despite having a disturbed cinematic mind, if you've seen Lynch in interviews, he seems quite the wholesome chap.
Yeah, wonderful guy.
Can be sued for Mars. That's what Brooks called him, wasn't it?
Brilliant.
Which is an amazing description. Jimmy sued for Mars. Yep, that's me.
You'd expect him to emerge from the shadows, but he seems like a well-adjusted man. And what a quiff as well. Great.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah.
On set, despite having written the screenplay, he never uttered any foul language. Something that Dennis Hopper found very amusing, where Lynch would point at the script and say, that word.
He's even made direction difficult to fathom. It's so weird.
You know what's interesting though? Obviously when he died, all the tributes that came out.
Yeah.
The amount of actresses he worked with who had nothing but praise from, considering how many dark films about sex he's made.
Yeah.
You would think, well, is he a bit dodgy in real life? But it just seemed like an absolute gentleman. Like the kindest soul you could ever meet.
It's almost like an alter ego has written and made his films.
So this is semi-autobiographical for Lynch. Jeffrey dresses like he did. His father worked in the Department of Agriculture, and as such, he was always in the woods. He said, lumber and lumberjacks, that's America to me. Like the picket fences and the roses at the opening shot. It's so burned in, that image, and it makes me feel so happy.
That's quite strange. It makes him feel so happy, and I'll make this nightmare underneath it.
Yeah.
So a strange and disturbingly unique vision from Lynch in his screenplay. Everything we'd come to expect from the coiffured genius. And next we have the unsettling sound of the music in Blue Velvet. There are some huge 50s, 60s hits that punctuate the narrative, and the beginning of an enduring cinematic partnership between David Lynch and Angelo Badalamenti.
It's such an eclectic mixture. You've got the 50 standards. You go from the opening titles, which is this very Bernard Herrmann-esque foreboding score. Very much riffing on Vertigo, I think, in particular, from his back catalogue. And then you've got the slinky jazz in there that is very Twin Peaks. If you ever watch Twin Peaks, that was that kind of soundtrack.
It is.
But again, it's one of the elements of the film where it's all about the contrast, because then you've also got that ethereal, almost angelic chorus that comes in, the mysteries of love, which is always associated with Sandy and the end. And that is so like blissed out, but it's also really, really honest. Like that kind of music, it could sound like a parody of a John Williams type score, but it never does. And I think that's because Lynch has never parodied anything in his life, in any of his films. Anything in his films he believes in. So he believes in the darkness and the seedy underbelly of life, but he also truly believes in the healing power of love. And he believes that those two things can coexist, and therefore they can coexist in the soundtrack as well. And that's what that represents to me, the contrast and the balance at the same time. So it's a mixture that, like so much of David Lynch, particularly in this film, it shouldn't work, but the variety of music just works perfectly.
Yeah, classic Lynch. Again, everything classic Lynch.
Everything's classic Lynch.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very playful, I think, is what I get from it. I think the whole score, I'll just talk about the score because I'm sure you guys have covered the songs that have been featured as we're discussing throughout the film, but I just think Badalamenti's having a great time here. He can just turn his hand to anything and it works. It really sets the tone as it goes through the film, but not as sledgehammery. I think Lynch needs someone like this who has got a little bit of subtlety, who is kind of stepping back a little bit and making you think, does this fit in this part of the film? Does that jazz make any sense right now? Does this real foreboding sense of dread really resonate with finding an ear in a field? Does this make sense? And I think that's what he does really well, is he reads Lynch and gives you the opposite of what should really go with it. Like he's putting potatoes with pasta almost. He's kind of like going, well, you can eat that at the same time, but it might not work, but it's not up to you to decide that. Like, and you then makes it even more twisted in your brain of like trying to figure that out. And it is like a Batman and Robin kind of thing for me with these two. They're just,
great.
Lynch is kind of batting the ball over and going, this is the scene, right? Give us something that I'm not expecting. And he gives him something that he's not expecting. And Lynch goes, we're using that. Because I think this was the first time they collaborated. Am I maybe right with that? I think.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of figuring each other out here. So I think what you would have done is just sent Lynch just a bunch of things. And where do you want to go with this? And Lynch has said everything. And then he's kind of constructed it the way he wants to. And then I think Badalamenti's looked at this and went, I know exactly what you want next time. I can do that, no problem. Twin Peaks, I can do that all day. You don't even need to tell us what you need. I can do it all day. That's not a problem. And that's what I get from this. I mean, there's like double bass in there. It sounds like a jazz cafe
Rush
kind
drum,
of comedian, like just to fill the gaps of just thoughts. So you don't have to think about it. There's no painful silences. It's just there just to chug along with the pace. And that's the thing. Is like I talked about the screenplay with the plotting of it. I think with the score, it really helps with the plotting of the film, with the pacing of the film.
Yeah.
It helps it move, and it helps it move at exactly the right pace. Nobody's got a theme here. You know, it's not the Imperial March when Frank turns up. There's no like... Imagine that'd be great. That just got Darth Vader from. It's where he does all the breath. That's what it is. It's all Star Wars, just an alternative universe. Yeah. I couldn't imagine it. That's even more terrifying. But that's what I mean. It just mixes together perfectly. I think this collaboration here really, really works. And I think Badalamenti's taken a back seat going, yeah, I'm quite happy to make this as crazy as you want to make it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Amazing. He really started something here with Lynch, and I think is a major element of the term Lynchian.
Yeah.
You get Badalamenti's work with David Lynch, dreamlike, floating, hazy music. It creates kind of hyper-realistic tone. We can never trust that we're in the real world when that music kicks in, especially when matched with the visuals. It's particularly noticeable during the romantic scenes between Jeffrey and Sandy. That dreamlike quality. Lynch must have thought like all of his Christmases had come at once when Angelo came on board.
Yeah.
But this is only one element of his work. You've also got, like you've been talking, that overtly noir music. It's the music of the 40s where all the hip cats occupy the shadows. It's loungy jazz with lazy sax.
Yeah.
It sounds like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
It does in places, yeah.
And it's all done very tongue-in-cheek, given some much-needed levity to the film. And then add to that the dramatic score he brings to the nightmare scenes. It's almost like he's made 3 different scores for 3 different films here.
Yeah.
3 or 4, yeah.
And the 50s songs are a revelation. Songs that were from a bygone era of teenagers in love and milkshakes now took on a brand new lease of life. The film reveals a darkness in Blue Velvet and In Dreams that I'm sure caught everyone by surprise. And
absolutely, yeah.
Those songs absolutely haunt me now. particularly in dreams.
Yeah.
Isabella Rossellini actually sung her version of Blue Velvet, and because that's her voice, she had a vocal coach on set, but they couldn't quite nail it.
Right.
So producer Fred Caruso drafted in his old buddy, Angelo Badalamenti. He flew into town and worked with Rossellini on her voice and the arrangement of the song.
Yeah, the arrangement's totally different, isn't it? I love that slow build of like the first couple of lines, and you just have to wait for it to kick in. It's fantastic.
She sounds almost like Nico. The way she delivers kind of like those kind of like hammer blow lyrics, the way that like the intonation, it's almost dull.
And it's not quite right.
Yeah, it's not quite.
It's not quite in time. It's not quite right. Yeah, something about it. Yeah, it's lovely.
Lynch wasn't actually blown away by this notion at first because Badalamenti was an outsider, but he loved the arrangement of the song that he did, and they got along famously, so Lynch asked him to score the whole film.
Yeah, and this was the start, as we've said, the start of a beautiful friendship with Badalamenti and Lynch, working together on all Lynch projects apart from Inland Empire. He would refer to his partnership with Lynch as my second best marriage.
When Sandy and Jeffrey walking down the street, Lynch played composer Dmitri Shostakovich music, booming out the speakers as they're walking down the street at night.
Right.
He said that he listened non-stop to number 15 in A major when writing the screenplay and wanted the atmosphere created by that song to pervade the set.
Right.
Lynch also told Badalamenti to make the music for the film like Shostakovich, be very Russian, but make it the most beautiful thing. But make it dark and a little bit scary. I mean, where do you go with that? Thanks, Dave. Great.
And Badalamenti appears in the film as the pianist in the Slow Club.
Yes. Nice.
Oh, right. Okay.
In the middle of filming, Lynch and McLaughlin were driving from New York to Wilmington, and Crying by Roy Orbison came on the radio. Amazing. Lynch loved it and said he needed to include that song in Blue Velvet. He bought a copy of Orbison's greatest hits, but became enamored with another song instead that we've been talking about, In Dreams.
Yeah.
Crying's already been used, hasn't it? Crying.
Yeah, it's good. Crying.
Bit of Only Fools and Horses yet again.
Yeah, there it is. Every episode now. And I haven't even seen that many of them. It still just resonates around when we're talking about it.
Yeah, it does.
And Lynch was inspired by the Bobby Vinton version of Blue Velvet. He said, it wasn't the kind of music that I really liked, but there was something mysterious about it. It made me think about things, and the first things I thought about were lawns in the neighbourhood.
Amazing. There's £6 million. Make a film that's completely yours. I want to put music in I don't really like. Sound?
Yeah.
Why? Because it makes me think of lawns.
Yeah.
It made me think of gardens.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything to do with the narrative? Nah, gardens and that.
Yeah. Just gardens and that.
Great. Love it.
Despite the gardens and that, Badalamenti's imprint on Blue Velvet is undeniable. Finally, it's a collaborator of Lynch's since he started making films. Indie DP extraordinaire, it is Frederick Elms.
I mean, the way that this whole film shifts over its full runtime of 2 hours from this glossy, beautiful sheen to then it seems to go from day to night, then back to day again. Yeah. It seems like a complete tonal shift. And the opening is just like a sunrise. And it's just got all of this great tonage to it. The colour palette's absolutely amazing. There's a lot of contrast in there. And to me, it feels like Lynch needs somebody he can rely on. And we know that Fred Helms did Eraserhead. So he's going back to his roots. Yeah. He's going back to somebody that he knows and he trusts. And someone who's very, very accomplished as a DP. And I think he does really well here. I think it's not overshadowed. It could be if someone was a little bit more heavy-handed. I think Lynch is heavy-handed enough. And I still don't think there's any subtlety to the cinematography, but it's definitely not over the top. It's definitely not overused. There's no colours that are overused. I think everything's used for the right reasons. And I think if anyone's shown restraint on the set, I mean, we've already talked about the score. We've already talked about Angelo just running with Lynch and I've just met him, here we go. But I think Fred Helms knew him a little bit longer and said, I tell you what, we're just going to draw this back slightly. And you can tell that with camera movement, with blocking. Some of it's very considered. Some of it's very intentional. Some of it really, really works. Like we said about that shot that always strikes me in the apartment, the whole Frank Booth scene, I think there's about three shots. Yeah. 3 different cuts. And it's all held on that wide. And it's how important that wide is and how important the practicals are. But it never looks lit. It never looks over the top. It always looks very much part of the scene.
It looks almost dark around the edges.
Yeah, it's got a vignette to it. It's got that real kind of just draws you into the center of the frame all the time. I don't think there's a lot of thirds in this film where you kind of go, right, well, that needs to be off to the side there. Even that great shot we're talking about with Frank in the car when he turns around, you still got Frank on one side, you got Dorothy on the other. It's all very symmetrical. It's all very framed. Everything has a place on the screen, and I think Frederick Elms just really knows where that place is, and Lynch needs to ask him where that place is to make it work, and you need somebody who understands Lynch, I think, to put his vision onto the screen as well as he does here. I think it really works. It's a very original look to a film in regards to the cinematography. I think it's been looked at by many, many people since. It's tried to be emulated, but they haven't got the content, or they haven't got the restraint, or they haven't got the knowledge that Frederick Elms brings to this whole production. And I think it really shines. It's just, again, another person holding the hand of Lynch and walking in exactly the same steps at exactly the same pace. He's an incredible part of the crew, and I think without him, it wouldn't be half as good. It wouldn't be half the film that it is. And Lynch might have fallen back to kind of the Dune or the Elephant Man kind of thing and just been like, well, somebody else is in charge of this. He needs somebody who he can trust, and he can trust Frederick Elms.
Without doubt.
Yeah.
We've talked about it. Colour and lighting plays a huge part. Blues and reds. Whenever Jeffrey is contemplating the dark side of his wants and desires, he's usually under the spell of a red light. Dorothy wears a blue velvet robe, obviously. The blue represents an innocence which she uses to cover up the sin of her body, and equally Frank uses swatches of that blue velvet, presumably to justify his actions. And they're all captured so stark and beautifully by Elms. It's very similar to what you were saying, Westy. He creates this very uncomfortable space in a lot of the sets. He sits on a wide shot for long periods of time, making it very uneasy. There's only about 3 shots in Dorothy's apartment.
Yeah, there's not a lot of flow to it. Like we said about this, like watching a stage play. A lot of it is played out like that and
very
set
much
up like that.
It's set up like anything can happen because this space just isn't filled. So something's going to come in at some point.
Yeah, it's a classic horror trope as well, isn't it?
It is. Obviously feel it more specifically in Dorothy's apartment when Jeffrey first knocks on the door and he's hiding in the closet. When he goes back in at the end and sees this strange formation of dead bodies. I've never been more unsettled by an apartment in movies. Ever.
Same, yeah.
Every time we go back to Dorothy's, I get this horrendous sense of unease, like I said. And that's because nothing good ever happens there. Lynch creates this sensation, but Elms has captured it perfectly. You can see it in the This Is It scene as well. The original plan was to set up the block and then have close-up shots, but during rehearsals, this only complicated the scene. So Elms put it as a wide shot with all the characters in the frame. He said that it gave the scene an intentional awkwardness, which put everybody on edge.
Yeah, seeing everybody, you just don't know who's going to do what. It's great.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think it comes as a surprise when he gets punched in the gut. Matt, your thoughts on cinematography by Fred Elms?
Yeah, it's the use of lighting, I think, for me, to go from that opening that I talked about to the darkness of the club, to the darkness of the streets when Jeffrey and Sandy are just walking and that street just stretches on behind them into infinity. Anything could be there. That shot of, it's very brief, that shot where it just pushes in on the trees and the streets are blank.
That point of view shot from there, like their point
the
of view.
POV shot, it's blinking.
You expect someone to jump out from behind that tree, don't you? It's really Halloween. Yeah.
It's really Halloween. It's really unsettling, and it's just that one bit. I mean, everything is so carefully thought through. Like Ben's place, it's lit to suggest all these dark corners where anything could be thriving. But again, it's like the music. It's about contrast scenes. Like the first time Jeffrey sees Sandy, and she steps out of darkness. It's like a 50s melodrama from Douglas Sirk or someone like that.
Yeah, beautiful stuff.
But then you contrast that to any scene with Frank and it's shot like a horror film instead. Like it's incredibly disturbing. Everything in this film is designed to put you on edge, to throw you off a little bit. So you don't know what's coming next. The sound design, the production design, same with the cinematography. The whole film is about things being brought into the light that shouldn't be brought into the light. And that's literally what the cinematography is doing here.
Love that.
And Elms himself said, it's a dark film because when he gets down under the surface and in over his head, he's in the muck and mire of this other world that he doesn't want to be in, but he's still intrigued and caught up in it. So I tried to create a style that would fit that mood.
And he did that by making the beginning and the end of the film overtly cheerful and colourful to give a stark contrast to the middle of the scene, the bulk of the film.
The scene in the car wasn't actually shot in a moving car. Fred Elms said that because the car appeared to be moving faster than was safe for a movie, the best way to give an impression of speed was to have lights moved past the stationary car by crew members very quickly and silently. It was just running past the car. It was all choreographed very carefully to create the illusion of a moving car. Totally works for me.
Yeah, they were just rocking it and just moving those lights past it. It looks incredible.
Looks great,
Yeah.
So a 1 in a million screenplay by David Lynch, who used trusted confidants, old and new, in his crew on Blue Velvet.
The end.
Jeffrey is plunged to depths he could never have expected, and now he has to claw his way back, and he starts by confessing his investigation to Sandy's dad. Westy, it's over to you.
I'm going to go to the scene where he goes back to the police station.
Yeah.
And we see the yellow man.
Love it.
I mean, this guy's not subtle, is he? Just change your jacket.
Same jacket every day.
Just the same jacket all the time. And he's supposed to be doing, pretty shady things. And I think if he wasn't wearing that jacket, I think it'd be hard for the audience to recognize him because Gordon just looks very, very plain.
Yeah,
he's a very, very, very plain guy. And this is a very, very stark contrast now to the police station that I mentioned earlier on. This is a completely different place. Not even, it's just like a different room. It's a completely different building altogether. I think this is all just really intentional. And I think it's really excellent when we get that alternative angle from when Jeffrey's remembering what Frank said about Gordon.
Love it.
And you get that, it's the alternative, and it's just like from the side when he's kind of remembering it, and it just, you then feel that's probably the most in line part of the narrative in the whole film. Though that makes perfect sense. That's how we saw Frank talk about Gordon. Oh my God, this actually works.
Yeah.
And I love it for that whole, just the way it spins, everything. It feels like I'm watching a different film than one I was watching an hour and a half ago. It's completely different. The acting's miles better. The reaction shots are miles better. The cutaways are just really, really fast and just really polished. And everything starts to make a little bit more sense. Really, really great scene. And, well, just a little bit. I mean, let's not go crazy. I mean, he's wearing a yellow jacket. I recognize the guy. There's a flashback. Frank said something. He's got the same name. Perfect. This is all we need. Here we go. Let's end the film.
Yeah, I mean, Westy's talking about the film making sense now and being normal. I think you then move into...
Not really, just slightly.
Well, slightly, by Lynch standards.
Don't stop putting words in my mouth.
Yeah, by Lynch standards, because I then think you move into what is maybe the most normal scene of the film, which is Jeffrey and Sandy going to this party.
Yes.
Because, it's what the people do of their age and it's completely normal. But then again, when is this set? Because that's some 50s rockabilly playing during this. And there's definitely 80s kids there. But then it just moves into like the most lushly romantic scene you could imagine of Jeffrey and Sandy confessing their love to each other. Well, that incredible soundtrack, Mysteries of Love, it's called, plays over it.
Yeah.
Like if you watch this scene in isolation, you'd think, I'm just watching one of the great romantic films of all time. That's what this scene is.
Yeah, imagine just seeing this scene and then going, do you want to watch Blue Velvet? This is a scene from it. You go, oh, yeah.
I'd love to watch that.
This would be lovely, this.
Valentine's Day, maybe.
Yeah,
exactly.
First date film, imagine. I mean, yes.
But then even following this, you get them pursued in the car by Mike, who is Sandy's ex-boyfriend. You think, it's going to be like tragically romantic. It's two people who need to be together in the face of adversity. It's very Romeo and Juliet. But it ends up being another scene that's testament to how Lynch can just shift gears and tones throughout this film. Because when they get into that confrontation outside the house, the way that Dorothy just appears in the background,
it's really
naked, obviously in some distress, it's one of the creepiest things I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it
doesn't just change gears; he changes cars as you drive.
Changes vehicles.
Changes vehicles.
You're back into Frank's car.
Yeah,
because it just jolts you out of that teenage romance subplot you've just been in. It's one of the scenes I can just vividly remember first time around, just being so startled the way she just emerges out of the darkness. And almost no one knows it apart from Mike. So much of the effect of Blue Velvet is the way all these contrasts and tones and subplots can flow into one another and be part of the whole, no matter how different they are to each other.
Yeah, this film, because we've just spoke about Carrie on a double feature, and this really reminded me about the end of Carrie.
Yeah.
Just how you have that beautiful moment, and then there's just this horrible nature at the home. It's like, it's a very similar kind of feel.
Yeah.
I like Mag, who's going to kick Jeffrey's ass. But then starts to take the piss out of Dorothy, but then realises how serious the situation is.
Who's that, your mom?
Yeah.
Awful. And then his friends are like, I thought you were going to kick his ass. I thought you were going to be was out. How, mate? Have you not seen the same thing that we've seen?
No,
like,
come on. Look at that.
He goes straight away, you expect this big fight scene, though, don't you? And then he just goes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm really sorry.
Yeah,
You've obviously got other things to deal with.
I'm not ready for this. Like,
definitely not.
Like what Jeffrey should have done at the start of the film.
Yeah.
So this scene we're talking about, the scene where Dorothy is naked on the lawn near the end, was inspired by real events, if you can believe that. When Lynch was a kid, he was on his way home with his brother when he saw a naked woman in the street. He said it wasn't titillating, it was disturbing, and he started to cry. He recognised the violent undertones of this and wanted to represent that feeling in Blue Velvet. And he really does.
Yeah.
He does. It's not sexy, this scene.
No, not in the slightest.
It's the farthest thing from sexy I think I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. And filming this scene caused quite a stir among the citizens of Wilmington. They all came out with their picnic blankets to watch the scene being shot, despite Lynch and Rossellini asking them not to. But after the scene, the local police forbade Lynch from shooting any more scenes outside because of the stir it created.
Right.
Of course.
It should have been absolutely ridiculous. What's he thinking?
Well, I'm picking up where they take Dorothy back to Sandy's parents' place.
Right, nice.
Now, this is a mixture of the two worlds colliding to devastating effect. A bruised, battered and naked Dorothy has snuck behind the white picketed fence of suburbia. And Sandy's mother does not like what she sees.
Definitely doesn't.
And it's really, really overlit this as well. You see everything. It's like the big light on, isn't it? It's it's too much.
Put the big light on.
No.
Jeffrey may be Dorothy's secret lover, but Sandy, she doesn't need to hear that.
Not really.
And she certainly doesn't want to hear that he put his disease into Dorothy. No. Yeah. I'd love Jeffrey to say, listen, I wish you'd stop saying that because it really doesn't reflect well on me. I don't have any diseases. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know who you are. That's what I would say. Who's that, your mum? Yeah.
She doubles down on it.
Yeah, it's your mum.
She says it twice. Yeah. He put his disease in me. Shut up, man. And I think this is where Jeffrey has to make a decision about what path he wants to walk down. He ultimately chooses Sandy and brings the light back to the world. And I think another mention should go to Isabella Rossellini here. Yeah. She leaves it all on show. No airs and graces. Her tortured soul is there for all to see in the most vulnerable way possible. And you're crying out for somebody to give her a bloody blanket or something like that. Just cover her up because she's got no clothes on for too long. That court takes too long to come into the living room.
Yeah.
So a chilling turn of events, disturbing imagery, challenging audience expectations and tolerance. All in a day's work for David Lynch.
An afternoon, I think.
The final stretch of the film sees Jeffrey confront Frank before everything returns back to eerie normality.
Yeah, it's starting to climb back, isn't it? It's starting to climb back to a little bit of happiness, I think, in some ways. You know, it's the middle of the night, but there's still that gloss there, especially when Sandy's room, when he's just on the phone to Jeffrey. Mm-hmm. And it feels a bit like Grease here to me. You know, the hopelessly devoted scene. It's like, Sandy, it's all right, I love you. And she's on the phone. It's like everything in our room looks like that kind of 1950s kind of rhetoric. Great mirror shot. I love that. I love the way it kind of comes out from that. Dern's absolutely wonderful here. Mm-hmm. She's absolutely wonderful because she sells it. She's very forgiving as a character.
Very forgiving.
Straight away. Oh, it's fine. I love you. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I'm sorry. I overreacted slightly. No, you didn't. You underreacted massively. That's what I think. I don't think you should even take the phone call, let's be honest.
I think she should stipulate that he gets rid of the disease, firstly, before...
Yes, get yourself tested. And
question what it is, maybe. Yeah. Is it metaphorical? Is it physical? What's the problem here? There's a lot of questions. That she doesn't ask, but that's fine because it's a David Lynch film. There's a lot of questions we ask that don't get answered. But I think Dern here is absolutely fantastic. When it's a big ugly cry, isn't it? It's a big ugly cry,
a real ugly cry.
And she's diving into it. She's getting into the character and doing it really well. And when she delivers that line, "Where's my dream?" That is absolutely fantastic. Because like, where's the happiness? Where's the light? When's the sun going to come up? Why is it so dark? What can I do to help? Finds herself just on the phone, and that delivery of like, well, find him, like just this frustration from her now, like she wants it over with. We want it over with, and so does she. And that's the last cut from her, and then we move into the most shadowed part of the whole film, It is now or never. It is make or break. It is a decision that needs to be made. This is 50-50. Jeffrey is there at Dorothy's, and that corridor is pitch black. There's an exit sign behind him. There's Dorothy's door there. There's a couple of slivers of light where he can kind of come into and come from.
Yeah.
And when he opens that door, would you go in that room? You turn the corner and there's the yellow man standing with a hole in his head, but he's still alive. Some guy sat down with a velvet thing stuffed down his mouth.
Yeah.
And a police radio in his pocket and a smashed television and a light. Why are you even walking in? What on earth is going on? This is his curiosity up to like 11 now. This is just getting ridiculous. And there's that jump scare when the radio goes off. And he hits the lamp. And you're like, this guy's still alive? What on earth is going on? Who is this guy? Is that her husband? Why is he like that?
How is he standing up?
How is he standing up? Why is he hitting a light? What on earth is going on? Has he been lobotomized? Like, it makes no sense whatsoever, but you still buy it. And then has the radio, and then you see Frank arrive, and you just go, right, well, we're in here now. He should have left. I'm going to let you find him on your own, And Matt said it's cross-cut with that brilliant, it's supposed to be action sequence where there's bullets are flying everywhere, and he's just, let's just do this on a budget of $6 million. Let's just throw some stones at some windows and film that, and have some people lying on the ground and do it all in slow motion and have it over within 30 seconds. Fantastic.
Great
because
song
the tension, great song. The tension is in Dorothy's apartment. The tension is in that building. The tension is ending it where it started. And when Frank turns up and you just see him, and like I said, it is hilarious, his delivery when he comes in here and he starts shouting and screaming, and he's just like, hey neighbor, and he's like taking this mustache off for brains, like completely just belittling him. I can hear your radio, and then just moving the way through, and then it's just his frustration when he can't find him. It's like, where are you? It's like amazing. But all up to that point, this is now or never. It's make or break. Is Jeffrey going to get out of this, or is he not?
That image of Frank coming up the stairs in the well-dressed man outfit is terrifying. When he looks up the stairwell at Jeffrey, that makes my blood run cold. I really like when Jeffrey realised that Frank's got a radio and he can hear his conversation with Detective Williams, but he's smart and he gives a little decoy. I'll be in the back bedroom. But he's back in the closet waiting for Frank to arrive yet again.
He's got a radio. Like, so the audience knows.
Yeah, so we know,
It's such a sledgehammer. It's amazing.
It is. Frank screams when he's going into the room. Pretty.
It's so funny, this, because you've been through so much shit with Frank and you're just like, right, this is great. Especially on the second watch when you know what happens. But it's like, it's so much better. It's so funny. You
can just hear him randomly plugging away at the bed.
What's he shooting at? Just a pillow. And then he takes him 3 or 4 shots to realise he's not there. It's amazing.
I think it's a little conventional the way Frank gets blown away. On a surface level, at least. But for me, it's really symbolic. The last time Jeffrey was in that closet, the door was opened to all of this darkness and sexual deviance. Now, he's suppressing that by coming out of the closet and taking Frank out of the equation, leading him back on the path to lightness and love in the world with Sandy. Incredibly symbolic.
What do you think of the effect used when his head gets blown back?
It's not great.
And it cuts to a dummy, obviously, but
There's
it's
a $6 million budget there.
And then we get to the end, we'll come out of the ear and back into some kind of normality.
Yeah.
I think Jeffrey's enjoying the sun.
Yeah.
His dad is fit and healthy. He's there.
Ridiculous.
Sandy just completely forgiven the affair with Dorothy. And you have the fakest bird in cinema since Mary Poppins eating a bug. And it's all to set to that glorious heavenly music again. So what does it all mean?
Yeah.
I think it's too much of a cliche to say, is it a dream? Maybe it's all in Jeffrey's head. It's more the fact that the robins have brought the light, just like Sandy said they would.
Yeah, exactly.
The robin is eating the bug, light has destroyed the dark, Frank is dead, Dorothy is free. But having said that, that robin is very deliberately not real. So what's that saying is, can light truly destroy dark? Maybe that's an illusion. Maybe it's only a partial victory or one that won't last. We see a repeat of the imagery we saw at the start, or is this thing just cyclical and nothing's truly over and nothing truly ends? We see that shot of Dorothy with the sun, and she's obviously delighted to be free, but as the song plays at the end in the lyric, but I still remember Blue Velvet comes on, there's just that bit of doubt in her expression. So maybe it isn't the happy ending we think it is. Maybe nothing's been accomplished.
Yeah.
Maybe it is a dream, or maybe it's just the last thing that Sandy says. It's a strange world, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's just Jeffrey. That's like the idealistic side of Jeffrey is won out. He surrounded himself with the symbols of this ideal. It doesn't mean that the darkness in the world is gone. It's just that Jeffrey has chosen to ignore that side of his personality. Remarkable full recovery from his dad. Just not realistic. Don's dead, so it's not really that much of a happy ending for Dorothy.
Not for Dorothy.
You can't start saying that there's elements of a Lynch film that aren't realistic. Like you just can't. After everything we've been discussing. I mean, this doesn't work for me. It's not realistic, the ending. But
oh no, it works. It worked for me.
It totally works. I think it's really emotional. I think when she gets back with her son, I think that run and just that hug and then that pan up is just incredible. It's just a really, really emotional ending for the film, and it lands. It should be cheese on toast. I don't know how it works so well.
It should be,
but it's fantastic. The depth to it is incredible.
I think the fact that this hyper reality that I've mentioned a few times, I think that means that, like, all of these people who've been affected by all of this narrative, they'll never be able to come away from the shadow of it. Dorothy, Jeffrey, even Sandy, they're all going to be scarred with this experience for life, despite this ideal white picket fenced America that they have back.
Yeah, that's why it shows the dead flowers at the end, doesn't it?
So the light has returned to Earth and the idealistic American dream is still alive. But there's still something lurking underneath.
Reception and awards.
Blue Velvet premiered at the Montreal World Film Festival in August 1986, where Dennis Hopper won Best Actor, and at the Toronto Festival of Festivals on September 12th, before making its big nationwide release in the US. On opening weekend, there was a mixed reaction to the film, as you could guess.
Would have thought so, yep.
Yeah.
People straight down the line. This is amazing. No.
People walked out and demanded a refund. There were reports of lines of cinema goers queuing around the block in LA and New York. In Chicago, a man passed out and had to have his pacemaker checked before going back into the theatre to catch the end.
Was that just the start of the film? Just doing his lawn? I hadn't even watched it. The other Entertainment Group's marketing team didn't know what to make of Blue Velvet when it came to promoting the film. Of course they didn't.
What is it?
Yeah, it wasn't until it started to get positive reviews that they began to promote it.
Yes, and those positive reviews came from big movie critics. Janet Maslin, writing in the New York Times, said that Blue Velvet was an instant cult classic and said that it confirms Mr. Lynch's stature as an innovator, a superb technician, and someone best not encountered in a dark alley.
Wow. Okay. I mean, from this film, you can kind of get that.
Peter Travers in Rolling Stone called it an American masterpiece and later declared it the best film of the 80s. And what of Roger Ebert? What do you think he's got it out of 4, fellas?
I either absolutely loved it or absolutely hated it. Yeah. I'm going to say he loved it.
I'm going to agree. I think bit of a curveball that he loved it, yeah.
Big 4-4.
Big 4, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, he gave it a 1 out of 4.
I should have known better, man. No, he's got no. He had no patience, Rog, did he? No patience. We should have guessed that.
Well, what he said was, I was absorbed and convinced by the relationship between Rossellini and McLaughlin, and annoyed because the director kept placing himself between me and the material. After 5 or 10 minutes, I didn't need the director prancing on with a top hat and cane, whistling that it was all in fun. In a way, Lynch's behaviour is more sadistic than the Hopper character. What's worse, slapping somebody around or standing back and finding the whole thing funny? Which we know he did.
Yeah, we do. But I mean, was that
I think he wanted a more straightforward narrative.
Yeah, but that's when this came out. This was 86, right? So he hasn't
86,
got. We've got hindsight on Lynch now.
It was ahead of its time.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. We can look back on it now with rose-tinted glasses, I think, and just go, right, yeah. Or I can see where this is coming from now because we had the chance to understand him.
Yes.
But I probably would have thought the same when it came out, to be honest. Like, what the fuck's this?
Yeah, totally. I mean, if it came out now, people would say the same thing. Yeah, since its release, the film's come under considerable criticism for the troubling nature of the narrative themes of sadism and masochism in the dynamic between Dorothy and Frank. Mm-hmm. About the criticism, Lynch has said, well, I can understand that for sure, but without that relationship, there wouldn't have been a film.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Yep.
And now I'm going to hand over to Matt the Stat for some numbers generated by Blue Velvet. Stat O'Banton, go for it.
Stat O'Banton, that's me.
We need some separate music for this part.
Do you think?
It's Matt the Stat. It's Matt the Stat.
No, I'll get some of that double bass jazz going on with this.
Oh,
That's what I want.
some of that. And like just your face spinning around in a little circle with stars all around it. Just spinning around, then just comes on. I'd love that.
Absolutely. That's what we should do. Make it happen.
Too right.
But in the end, on a budget of $6 million, like we've talked about, Blue Velvet returned a very conservative $8.5 million. Ooh. Critical reviews, as I said, they were divided at the time, but they've since given way to overwhelming praise, and it now has 91% on Rotten Tomatoes and a score of 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb.
At the Golden Globes, Lynch was nominated for his screenplay and Hopper for his supporting performance. Lynch was also nominated for Best Director at the Oscars. Strange. He lost out to, can you think, the 87 Oscars for films from 86.
Is it Platoon? Yeah, Platoon, yes, Oliver Stone.
Well done, Matt. Yeah. There you go, Matt the Stat O'Bannon.
The Stat.
Strikes again.
Yeah.
The Butcher.
Never ceases to amaze me, that.
It was more successful on the lower rung of award ceremonies. Rossellini won an Independent Spirit Award. Lynch, Hopper, Elms, and the film itself won the National Society of Film Critics Awards, and it won Best Film at the Sitges Festival.
Nice.
I think representative of the disturbing nature of the film.
Yeah, that's the audience for it, isn't it?
A challenging film, one where conservative box office numbers and divisive critical response is pretty much on brand for David Lynch.
Sequels and influence.
Obviously no sequels to Blue Velvet, no sequels for David Lynch at all, except maybe on the small screen.
Yeah.
But the film's reputation has significantly increased in the years since, and it's now considered one of the greatest movies ever. It's received a number of accolades, is seen as an ultimate cult film, and has appeared on many publications' best of lists. It was even chosen by the AFI as the 8th greatest mystery flick of all time, which is quite strange to me. I think there are better pure mystery flicks out there, but to call Blue Velvet a mystery film is, I think, just to miss the point.
Yeah.
Just a
That's
little
like
bit.
5% of it.
And nevertheless, and more importantly, where have we seen Blue Velvet's influence and what is its legacy in the time since? I think you need look no further than Tarantino. I mentioned Pulp Fiction earlier, but the Ace licensing from Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Surely.
And the walking through the car park as well, as we've mentioned. I think that's
definitely.
Yeah.
The humour and irreverent approach to human life, I think, in the likes of Heathers is influenced by Blue Velvet. Yep. The white picketed fenced American dream of Edward Scissorhands with that dark underbelly at the end of it. It was obviously responsible for one of the many resurgences that Dennis Hopper had in his career, and I think this cemented his reputation and longevity as an actor. But I think ultimately, without Blue Velvet, or even if it hadn't been a success, if it's still there but not successful, you definitely don't get Twin Peaks a few years later.
No.
Which is widely regarded as the watershed moment in prestige TV. So it paved the way for the likes of The X-Files, Sopranos, and then we're off and running. The Wire, Mad Men, Breaking Bad, Succession, The White Lotus. Things would just look very different.
Yeah, very similar. Just so much of popular culture comes back to this from TV to cinema. I had the exact same thing written down. If you don't have Blue Velvet, you don't have Twin Peaks, you don't have The X-Files, you don't have Stranger Things.
There you
so
go.
Much
Brilliant.
like springs from this. And just the amount of filmmakers whose minds must have been blown apart by this is incalculable. Like the amount of filmmakers who would have seen this and had that realization. It doesn't have to make sense.
God,
they don't have
to
any
do
rules.
That.
We can do that. And those filmmakers, I mean, they range from the likes of Lars von Trier to Robert Eggers, the films he makes today. Donnie Darko, Richard Kelly's film, was a huge influence to this one. So that's its influence me, just Lynch in general. But certainly this film in particular just blazed a trail that people still follow into the day.
I think so. I mean, there's some films that people might not think link back to this one, but they do in my mind. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I want to say them anyway.
We'll see.
I think without this, I don't think you'd have American Beauty. I think Sam Mendes got a lot from this film.
I can say that.
The iconography of it, just the vibe of it,
just the rose petals.
Just everything just doesn't really make sense, but it is very American and it has got that kind of sensibility to it. I must say, LA Confidential has that kind of that murder mystery, the femme fatale, that
the noir elements of it,
and that twist to it. And it is quite Lynchian. There's some moments in that is just very bright, and then it's very shadowed, and then it's very contrasty, and it just has the same kind of feel. And I think Memento because Nolan went into that going, well, yeah, of course, it's backwards. I'm going to make it backwards because Lynch made Blue Velvet forwards, and that still doesn't make sense. So it has that very simplistic vibe. It has that use of colour in the fact that it doesn't use colour at all. It goes from black and white to colour, and I think that's a very Lynchian thing to do, to go from Eraserhead straight to Blue Velvet. I think if you miss out the other two films, if you miss out Elephant Man, if you miss out Dune, you can go from Eraserhead to Blue Velvet and kind of cut them together, and it has got the same sensibility, and that reminds me of Memento somehow. I don't know why, but that's definitely in there. And I also think, because Malick is one of my very favourites, and we've just spoke about Badlands, I think without this film you wouldn't get Tree of Life, because he wanted to inject that kind of Americana, that American culture, that vibe, that picket fence, that kind of... And that film, me and Matt went to see that at the Tyneside, do you remember, mate?
We did.
And we walked out of that going, I have no idea what that was about, but that was incredible. And it is about nothing. It's about life. It's about everything. And I think he's seen Blue Velvet and went, actually, I'm just going to make Blue Velvet without a plot. And I think, and just make it about this homely, that wave and fireman at the start, to me, is Tree of Life, just all the way through.
I'll say that.
So that's what I get from it, is just this sense of freedom that he gave filmmakers, the fearlessness, the passion that he goes into making a film that he really wants to make, and that actually, it made its money back. It made $8 million. So what? It made a profit. I don't care if it's conservative or what, but it's still a success in my eyes, and that's absolutely fine. And to influence some of the biggest filmmakers that are still going today, I think it's just an incredible legacy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's almost endless examples of the influence that Blue Velvet had from the late 80s, 90s onwards.
That's just off the top of my head, it's like, wow, yeah, that makes sense because of that. I think they're just tapping into the fearless nature of it.
Absolutely, yeah. And without it, I think the pop cultural landscape would look very different.
Very boring.
All the Right Movies ranking.
We're emerging out of Jeffrey Beaumont's ear and into the sun-drenched dream of Middle America. Before we go inside, it's time for our now world-famous ATRM ranking. Westy, could you summarise and give us your score out of 10, please?
I can give you my score out of 10. Whether I can summarise Blue Velvet is another kettle of fish. We shall see. I think it's a very brave film. I think it's a very ambitious film. And I think it's one that works on both of those levels. The bravery shines through and the ambition definitely shines through. I think without this, we wouldn't have the David Lynch that we know and love today. I think he needed to come back to his roots and make something that he really wanted to make. I'll bang on about that with every film that we talk about. If it has, brave direction, assured direction, and the same with the writing, same with the characterization. There's things in this film that I haven't seen and will not see again. It's incredibly original. It's incredibly powerful, but it's not one that I'll go back to again and again, because I think there's just too much to it that warps your mind a little bit. And there's a little bit to it that is a bit hard to watch in places.
Very hard.
That Lynch found humorous at the time. And I don't understand how that could be possible. So I'm maybe not tapping into it from the right angle, but at the same time, it's a film that I really respect and I really enjoy, and I will recommend it to pretty much anyone, but I won't sit with them when they watch it. If that makes sense.
No. You don't want to be
for that reason, it's definitely up there. Not my favourite Lynch film. We'll get into that later on, but it's a definite high one for me, so it's going to be a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10, yeah, massive. Brilliant. Yeah, I'm full of admiration for this film. It's got so much guts and originality. David Lynch really was a unique filmmaker of which we're unlikely to see ever again. This film could be watched on a number of levels. A great noir mystery, a tale of disturbed Americana, a horror flick, a coming-of-age story, an edible nightmare. And that's the beauty of the film. You can come back to it time and again and get something different.
Yeah.
But the setting, the performances by Rossellini and Hopper, the disturbing narrative, there's nothing like it in mainstream cinema, and it never fails to captivate me. Just like pure guts, it's a 10 for me all the way.
Nice.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, with this one, I think we've really stripped it back as far as we can to see what's under the hood and try to make sense of it. And there is precious little left to be said about it. I really wish I could have been old enough to see this back in the day, completely unaware of what it was, unaware of its reputation, because even if you had seen what Lynch had done before this, even Eraserhead, this must have felt like something from an alternate universe, because ultimately that's what it is. It's a reflection of our world, but spun on its head with all the dark and dirty little secrets behind the supposedly perfect facade of life tumbling out. And what really struck me coming back to it for this, though, is that for all the darkness, all the horror, all the sexual violence, it's an incredibly entertaining film at the same time.
It is.
For something that justifiably could be called art house, it works as a thriller incredibly well. It's never been an all-time favourite of mine because it's not something I can watch on a regular basis. I need to take a bit of a deep breath before I watch it. But having said that, I think this is just one of those cases where that doesn't really factor into my score for it because it's a singular film from a singular filmmaker. I still think it's his best film. So it can't be anything other than a 10 from me.
Wow. Our fourth and final score for Blue Velvet comes from our followers on X. Now, you can imagine, with a film like this, there was a mixed response. Here are some comments that I've picked out first. From an Aegis of Infinite Facepalms at Roy Kirk. They said, my absolute number one film of all time. I've bought it on physical media so many times, it's embarrassing. Every time I watch it, I find something new. This charmless man at Jimmy Bob said, I'll say 8. Magnificent movie that introduced Lynchianism into the public consciousness, but it didn't really stick the landing. I've seen it multiple times, but I still have to look up the wiki article to remind myself how it ends.
Really?
I think that maybe be a lack of concentration, to be honest. More than anything else.
Yeah, it's all there.
And on the negative side of things, clocking out at Free Timex Watch said 1. I had no idea what anything was supposed to mean. It was weird, and the scene where the guy goes insane on the girl weirded me out the most. Maybe I need to read about it or something. Well, listen to this podcast, clocking out. That's what you should do.
There you go. Yeah.
I'll show you.
That's your mind changed.
And I think Lynch would have loved his response as well.
Yeah.
Now, this was the most balanced score I think we've ever had on Twitter/X.
Right.
As you know, our poll for the film is a choice between 10, 9, 8, and 7. X doesn't allow any more than 4 choices on the poll. And at the halfway point, with hundreds of votes cast, there were a few comments drawing attention to the fact that there was an exact 4-way split. 10, 9, 8, 7 all had 25% of the votes.
Wow, really?
You can't get any more Lynchian than that, can you?
No, definitely not. There's the balance for you.
That's your 4 honks right there.
Yeah.
So based on all of that information, fellas, how do you think Blue Velvet scored out of 10 on X?
Oh, God knows now.
I have no idea.
I'd go higher up, though. I would say 8.
I mean, before all that, I'd have said 10 because people love it, but obviously they don't. But I'll stick to my guns. I'll go 10 then, but
10.
Not, is it?
No.
That's a cannon. That's not a gun.
Yes, it is. It got an 8.
Okay,
well done, Westy.
Right.
Very nice. Very divisive film, clearly. I don't think that surprises me in the slightest, to be honest.
Not
because,
at all.
Right, fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, this is it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Tough sell. So overall, including X and our 3 scores, Blue Velvet got a score of 37 out of 40.
Right.
Very impressive score. Join us again in All the Right Movies. In 2 weeks, John, Westy and Matt will be going behind the scenes on QT's Tinseltown set modern classic, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Shoes and socks off for that one, fellas.
Those hippies are going to regret it.
And they just...
Why don't I just stop at one drink? Well, you gotta f***ing do it. Yeah, look forward to that one. Looking forward to that one.
Can't wait.
Yeah, loads of laughs.
And if you haven't had enough of psychosexual, phantasmagorical, Lynchian nightmares, sign up to us on Patreon, where we'll be talking about 2 more films from the great man. The Straight Story and Mulholland Drive. That'll be on double feature at the end of March.
My apologies. That's worth signing up on Patreon just for that episode, I have to say.
Yeah, that's going to be... It's going to be something.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Get access to that and the watch list by signing up to be an ATRM patron at patreon.com/alltherightmovies.
Yeah.
Outside of those podcasts, there are regular episodes of Showreel coming out every 2 weeks, alternate to this show, and we'll continue to bang the drum. But if you're a fan of the show, please find it in your hearts to take 60 seconds out of your schedule and give us a positive rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, or anywhere that you listen to this podcast. It takes no time at all, but it'll mean the world to us.
Yes.
5 stars all the way.
5
for
stars
sure.
is a good idea. Yeah, that's a good choice.
It's the best idea.
It's the
only
choice,
idea.
Yeah, exactly.
In between all of our podcasts, we are active on social media daily. On X, we are at AT Right Movies, where our making of movie threads go down a storm on a daily basis. Just like our podcast, they tell the making of stories from classic and hit films. And just like our podcasts, all the behind-the-scenes stories we tell come from the cast and crew or is verified by at least 3 sources. So if you haven't read it already, get in there. You will be entertained.
Absolutely.
Yes, on Instagram and Threads, we are at @all_the_right_movies. Our threads are also on Threads. And they're on Blue Sky, where we are at alltherightmovies.com. On TikTok, we are at alltherightmovies. We also have a Facebook group where there is some great movie chats by great people. And we are on YouTube as well. Watch our videos if you can. A follow and a like would be much appreciated. youtube.com/alltherightmovies.
Yes, thank you, guys.
And our website, alltherightmovies.com.
Woo.
And that is a wrap, everyone.
It's a wrap.
We're off to grab ourselves a couple of Heinekens. Come back in 2 weeks for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Until then, you stay alive, baby. Heineken!
Helps Blue Ribbon!
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.